My event is starting. We should probably have a study group. Let's get some things going. Oh, we are live. We're 18 seconds live. If you're watching this in the replay, you can fast forward about 14 minutes and we'll be starting. Okay, get the chat room going. That'll work. All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, live people. Let's do a camera check. There's one. Are we going to do two? Yes. How about, I might go to here. I might go to graphics. Let's look at picture in a picture in a picture. That seems to work. Excellent. Excellent. Let's see if we're going to make it on this one. I should have probably made the graphics so that it mutes. Oh, well. Have to do that manually. Okay, we are streaming. People are in. Where's my analytics? Analytics. Get my viewers going. Let's see, we need a presentation. There it is. This is May, isn't it? Just barely. Just barely May. Some things going here. Hello, chat. Chat room. All right, let's put some ears in and see if I can hear myself. Uh-oh, I got this in wrong. Got it completely backwards. Red is right. They put a little dot. They put the teeniest little dot on my headphones. Is red right? Have I got it? Did I have it right the first time? The hardest part of my day is putting my headphones on. There we go. Get those in there nicely. I put some aftermarket connectors on these. They are nice and tight. Test 2, test 3, 4, 5. Test 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, test 2, 3, 4, 5. That's better. I had the wrong output set. I was hearing echoes of myself, and I don't like hearing echoes of myself. Okay. I am unechoed. What else? What else do we have to do? I have my throat spray handy. See if I can make it through this study group. Still recovering from whatever it was that caused the last study groups not to happen. That's okay. We'll get there. Let's see. I can probably call up and connect to the call-in lines. We're going to do some different things with the call-in lines this time. Launch it. Yes, I would like to confirm my call. Oh, it's loud. There we go.
Your show is scheduled to start in 9 minutes, 50 seconds.
Why, thank you. Get that going. All right, 9 minutes on that. 9 minutes, Mr. Sinatra. All right, that works there. That piece is here. Got this going there. There's a lot happening on here. All right.
9 minutes until showtime.
Indeed. All right. Let's start the recording now because I will forget in 9 minutes to start the recording. And we'll edit that out later. All right. Should be sending out the auto tweets in about 4 minutes. We are recording. Mail works. Don't have time for that at the moment. What else? I think we're good. I think we're super good. Let's play this remote. Very nice. Notifications go out 5 minutes before, so they have not gone out today. They'll go out in 3 minutes.
8 minutes until showtime.
Could probably change the notice on my website to say it's now. You could join. It's live. Where would I find that? Yeah, I haven't sent one. There's not one. There's not one in your inbox for another 2 minutes. What am I looking for? I'm looking for my little super bar. Super bar. Let's change this to the live link. Save that custom text. Empty my caches. My caches.
7 minutes
Oh my
until
gosh.
showtime.
7 minutes. All right. All right. What else do we have going on here? There's a lot happening in this office. Fresh coffee. Oh, is my virtual machine up and running? NEMA VM. Yes, it is. Excellent. That'll work.
Six minutes until showtime.
That's not annoying at all. All right. We're going to need to not put that there, put that here. There's a lot of buttons. You can tell I've been away from the live stream for a while. I have to figure out where the buttons are. Always try to clean up a little bit in here before going live. And it's amazing what you find. I forgot I had that. I forgot that was there. One of these days I'll get a proper organizational set of shelves and things in here and make it so that's a little bit more reasonable.
5 minutes until showtime.
Until then, though, we'll see. Okay. All right, there went the auto tweets, auto Facebooks, auto Google Pluses. Those are away. All right, about 4 minutes left. We'll get more of these things going.
4 minutes until showtime.
Indeed. They got a nice group in the chat room today. Call-in lines are up. Buffered posts have gone. All right.
3 minutes
What?
until showtime.
What's in 3 minutes? What's she talking about? What's going on here? Oh. Email showed up, didn't it? I just don't send it out any longer than 5 minutes in advance because 10 minutes is kind of too long. 15 minutes is ridiculous, and anything longer than that, you'll just forget about it. But if you get the email and you think, oh, I could do this right now, then there you are. What I should probably do, now that I'm thinking about it, is add some calendar links to the original invite so that you can click and add it to your Google Calendar, maybe Outlook, something like that. An ICS. There we go. I'll put that in my to-do list. So I will to-do it. To don't it. Which is usually what happens. All right. We're almost ready to get going. I may just talk like this for the entire study group. What's up, my babies? We're going to study today. A little bit of A+. It's kind of creepy. Not going to do that. Creep myself out.
One minute until showtime.
Minute. Well, it took her long enough. She should have just, I was ready 9 minutes ago. Where was she? Counting. She was just busy counting. Well, I can't send so many reminders. People don't like to get a lot of emails. So that's kind of how that works. Have to balance that one out.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds.
What?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Play this neat little sound.
Blog Talk Radio.
There she is. So let's get this thing going. I could probably have some buttons here I could be pushing to make this thing happen. All right, let's do this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the May 2014 Professor Messer A+ Study Group. We got it in right at the end of May, didn't we? It's May the 31st of 2014. I managed to take the entire month and not do a study group. And then at the very end, we snuck one in there. So it was something that everybody was wondering, when are we doing the study group? When is that happening? So finally, I was able to get that on the calendar and make sure that everybody could attend that study group. We do this study group every month. It's one of these things that allows me to to take advantage of all of the questions you send me, and I just compile them up and then I spit them right back out at you. I do this study group, and it's sponsored really by you. I couldn't do this study group if you weren't watching my free YouTube videos. Every single one of my A+ videos is available to watch absolutely free out on ProfessorMesser.com. You can also go to freeaplus.com, freeaplus.com. It'll take you right to the entire index of A+ videos. I also have people that will purchase offline versions of this. That also helps keep the website running. You can find out more about that at ProfessorMesser.com. I also want to make sure that you're aware that we have other links to keep track of what's going on here as well. There's ProfessorMesser.com/Twitter/Facebook/YouTube. And here's a good one if you want to save some money is /vouchers. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people want to be able to save just a little bit of money. You can use those vouchers to save money across any of the CompTIA certifications that you might take. So it doesn't have to be A+, it could be Network Plus, it could be Security Plus as well. This is a live call-in study group, so I take your calls. One of the things that we're going to do this time is I have a lot more questions for you. So when you call in, first thing I'm going to do is ask you to answer a question. So we're all together going to do some pop quizzes today. I have a lot of them available and trying to get that going as well. There is also the case where you may already have your A+ certification and you may want to learn more about maintaining that certification. You can use this study group as one of the things that can apply towards your continuing education credits. And those continuing education units are all found also at the CompTIA website at comptia.org. There's also a nice big URL that I've put up here that can also take you to the certification details. There's a lot of different things you can do, a lot of different things you ultimately have to do to maintain your certification. This is one of those things. I think most people will probably take the next higher layer certification, since that's free to do and most people are doing that anyway, and that also renews your lower level certifications. You can find out all about that at the CompTIA website at comptia.org. As I mentioned, I couldn't do this study group if you weren't sponsoring what we did here. All of my videos are available to watch free or to watch and take offline as well. You can have a look at purchasing those at ProfessorMesser.com/downloadable-A+. It's one of the things that you can do. You can also notice online, even on my website, I have transcripts of everything. I took all the videos, I sent them off to nice people who typed in every word that I said. And they actually had the videos, so they were able to do a really good job, very accurate job with those transcripts. And I've put the transcripts as part of the YouTube video. So if you have closed captioning turned on, you'll see my transcripts, not the weird YouTube tried to figure it out kind of transcript, which with this kind of technology doesn't exactly work exactly well. So I put my transcripts on YouTube, and also on my website. When you're watching a video, if you scroll down, you'll see the entire transcript there as well. So there's some nice things to work along and get those things going too. Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions today, and one of the things that I have is an online system that we can use, that you can grab your mobile device, open up another window in your browser, and go to a website called govote.at, and it will ask for a number. And that number, in this particular case, I'm going to ask you a question about how long you've been studying for your A+ certification. And if you go to govote.at, and you go to 998735, that's the magic number, or grab a QR code reader and just scan your screen right now on that QR code. It should take you directly to that. I'm looking at the QR code. If you look at the website itself, in fact, I'll flip over there, you'll see people will start voting on that immediately, which is kind of nice. Here's the site itself. So now you see the QR code up there, and behind the scenes, we'll see everyone start voting on how long they've been taking or studying for their A+ certification. One of the things that we like to do on the study group is get an idea of that, so we know how to position some of the questions and other things that we'll be going through. In this study group, I'm going to be doing a lot more questions to you. So think of it as a game show where you can call in and get a question correct and win nothing. I have no prizes. There's the prize is that you know that you've done a good job. It's the gift of knowledge that you get for calling in. I don't have any. I need to create some tchotchkes or something. Yeah, you get a free Professor Messer pin or something. It's one of those things that might come in handy later on if you want to be able to see what you've been doing with those pieces. That might come in handy. I might think of doing something like that. It could be very useful. One of the things that we're doing on the study group is these questions. You can see behind the scenes. Let's get rid of the QR code. You've had plenty of time to scan that. Get ready for the next one, though, because I have plenty of questions available to you. These QR code questions really do come in handy because you're able to snapshot and get into it. And I have a bunch of extra questions set up this time, so we should be able to get to it. So those of you that are going through and looking at the responses, we see we've got a good mix here. Some people that are just starting out, we've got 1 to 3 months. Some people that have been doing this more than a year, studying more than a year. Some of you already have your A+ certification. You may have already had it for quite some time. You may be adding that to that list as well. One of the things that I like to do with these study groups is really mix up the type of information. So whether you have just started the studying process for your A+, or you're planning later on to add to it or renew it, I'm trying to give you more content that you can use. Command line options, things you may have even forgotten about, motherboard concepts during the A+ learning certification. When you're learning a certification, you're trying to figure it out. Everything is crammed into such a very short time frame. Sometimes nice to go back and look at some of these things that you did for the certification that now you can actually use when you're out in the real world. So that does help as well. There's a number of questions that I get every month about the A+ certification itself. It's one of the things that I seem to find people are just getting into A+ and trying to figure out, how does this certification work and how is it structured? Should I take both exams at the same time? And if I should, why should I? And here's a good example of one of these things. This is the 22801 and the 22802. One of the things that with both of these exams is that the topics in the exams are very different now. If you look back at older versions of the A+ exam, there was a lot of overlap between both of those. These days, the overlap has been eliminated. CompTIA really wanted to create standalone exams so that you could study for either one of these and go take that one, and you're done with those concepts, at least effectively. There's very, very little overlap between these exams anymore. There used to be substantial, significant overlap. In fact, in the past, a lot of people said, well, you should just study for both of them and take both of them at the same time. That is so much content. It doesn't even make sense to do that any longer. These days, you can study for your 801 and take that one, and then study for your 802, and it's going to be completely different content. So you don't have to cram everything into a single day of testing. I couldn't even imagine trying to do that the first time with the A+ certification. You can see in the 801, you've got PC hardware, networking, laptops, printers, and operational procedures. A lot of people call this the hardware exam. It's not exactly anymore a hardware exam because there's networking in there, there's operational procedures in there, but a lot of the hardware is indeed found in that 801. You could take the 802 exam first. Doesn't matter what order you take these things in. You just have to be sure you take both of them before they are retired. The 802 exam is more software oriented, but again, it's not just software. It's operating systems, certainly, but there's also security concepts on it. Mobile devices is a brand new entire section on the 800 series exam. So that's not even, it's kind of hardware and it's kind of software. It's a mobile device. It's a device unto itself. And troubleshooting. That's probably the only section where there's a little bit of things that do overlap, where it might be good to know more about the hardware on the 801 so you can apply some of that towards the troubleshooting piece. And I think that's when you get into trying to learn more about the technology and what it's doing. So keep that in mind. Notice the scales on this are pretty interesting. People will say, is there a particular percentage correct that I need to get? The problem or the challenge with trying to calculate that is that we believe every question has a different number of points associated with it. So some questions may be worth very little, some questions may be worth a lot. And we have that idea because, as you can see here, the score on the exams is scaled between 100 and 900. So for the 801, you have to make a 675 in the range of 100 to 900. So there's not even a zero. It starts at 100 and it goes to 900. I know. It's kind of odd. Nobody else does this that way. It's usually a percentage correct, but not with these certification exams. They mix it up a little bit. You have to get a 700 on the 802, so you have to do a little bit better on the 802 than you do on the 801 to get a passing grade. Those are things to keep in mind. When you look at this, you can kind of estimate what a percentage correct might be, but there's no way to sit down at the exam, go through what you've answered, and say, if I miss 10 of these, I'll pass. You can't do that. No, because some of them, you may have picked the 10 that you've missed, may be the largest percentage or largest number value for this. So picking 10 other questions may actually, and missing those may actually be better off than the 10 you're missing. It's a challenge to figure that piece out. The idea is you want to get all of them right. Just go into the exam, get every single one of those correct. And I think that's what we want to be able to do. If you are on the line, we're going to go to some calls, and I'm going to ask you some questions when we pick up these phones. So if you have a question for me, you're just going to have to wait until I ask a question of you. And we're going to have everybody answer these questions. So there's no talking in the chat room about what these questions might be. It's going to be useful for you to be able to answer these on your own. And one thing is the caller is actually going to have a little bit more time because there's about a 30 to 45 second delay from the time that we do this until the time that you see it. So if you are on the phone, you want to be listening on the phone. Otherwise, I'll pick up the line and you're 45 seconds behind what we're doing. So with that, let's go to the phone calls. I've got someone from the 661 area code. Are you there, caller? I can hear you, caller, 661 area code. Are you there?
Nope.
Hello. I hear your background noise. Are you there, caller?
Yes.
Hi, what's your name?
Henry Ochoa.
Hello, Henry. Thanks for calling today. Before you ask a question of me, I have a question for you. We're going to mix this up today. So hopefully you're ready to answer a question. Are you ready? I'm putting you on the spot.
No problem.
Okay, we're gonna do one. It's gonna be kind of hard to watch on the live stream, so you're just gonna have to listen to me to answer the question. But if you are on the live stream, you'll be able to see the question and at least see what I'm saying. So the question I have for you is, what type of memory is used to improve the performance of CPU instruction processing? And I have some options for you, so this is not a fill in the blank. So what type of memory is used to improve the performance of CPU instruction processing? Is it cache memory, static memory, hybrid memory, or SDRAM memory? So those are your four options. Do you have a particular one that you're leaning towards looking or trying to figure out? If you're also, by the way, watching on the live stream and you'd like to vote yourself, go to govote.at and enter the number 11943. I'll also put up the QR code again for those of you that like that QR code. So, Henry, we'll go back to you. Any ideas or thoughts about what type of memory might be improving the performance?
I'm going to go with the first one, static.
First one's cache, static, hybrid, and SDRAM. So this is one of those questions, by the way, that requires that you pick the best answer for this particular piece. Well,
I'll try my best. Static.
We're going to go with static on that one. I'm going to let people are voting right now. So we're going to let people vote on this. And by the way, one good thing about this, by the way, whether you get it right or you get it wrong, you actually win the same thing. I think I mentioned that earlier because I don't have any prizes. Yeah. We're low budget here. I need to think about that. Yeah. Create some Professor Messer screwdrivers or something like that. The performance of CPU instruction processing, I've hidden the votes online. So as people are voting, we don't actually know what people are voting with yet. And again, in the chat room, no talking about what those are. That's one of those things that that is a challenge. I hope to get a stream soon that will be a lot faster, more real time on this. So we have 20 responses. Let's see what people have voted with. And we had 20 people said cache, 4 people said static, 0 said hybrid, and 1 said SDRAM. So I think in this particular case, I'm going to go with the folks that elected the cache memory. So when you're looking at the CPU and you're looking at level 1, layer 2, layer 3 cache, those are the types of memory that improve the instruction processing of the CPU because it puts all of those registers and the information that it needs directly on the CPU chip in memory, and it goes out and tries to grab that information. Instead of grabbing that information from memory, it's got it right there sitting on the chip. So the good part about it is, number one, maybe you didn't get it right, but you did actually learn something, which I always try to see when something breaks. That's when I really learn something. And secondly, you didn't lose anything. Your dollar value goes back to 0. I'm very sorry, Henry.
Uh-huh.
But that's okay, because if you won, your dollar value would have been 0 as well. Do you have a question for me today?
Well, I just graduated from the school.
Congratulations.
So I took a year of computer repair and maintenance. My diploma just got here a month ago.
Excellent.
And now I'm going for the A+, the 2.0. I just received my books from school to prepare for the A+.
Good.
But I'm finding that the wording is getting me a little bit confused. Sorry about that.
Sure. Yeah.
The wording, what I learned in school, the wording changes in the A+ exam.
We are
kind of tricky with the wording.
Do you have an example of one that really just threw you off a bit?
Mostly, it's just maybe sometimes they talk about the new stuff.
Right. This is
like, for example, the new bridges, the Sandy Bridge.
Right. And the Haswell chips, the Sandy Bridge, the
yes, and sometimes in school we didn't even got to. All we did. Sorry about that. All we did was talk about the South Bridge and North Bridge.
Right. This is probably one of the challenges I see with people when they grab these, when they get their book, their A+ books. And I can appreciate what the authors of the A+ books are trying to do, because they want to put as much information into the book as possible. And very often they go outside the scope of the book a bit. They go well into details of chipsets, of CPUs, of operating systems that really don't have any particular requirement on the A+ certification. For instance, I have part of my CPU exam, my CPU videos for the A+ exam show things about a quad core. I show a quad core CPU. It happens to be a Sandy Bridge processor, and I added that information because I think it's helpful to understand the terms of that. But one of the things that you'll find, if you look at the A+ exam objectives, it doesn't have the word, I don't think it has the word Sandy Bridge anywhere on there. It doesn't have the word Haswell anywhere on the A+ exam objectives. And so my first recommendation to you is, first, your book probably has a list of the exam objectives, but it might be worthwhile as well to go out to the CompTIA website and download the objectives as well. I also have a quick link to that. If you go to professormesser.com/objectives, it will take you to the CompTIA website where you can download those objectives and look those over. In fact, those make a really good checklist. And if you run into a part in the book that's talking about some very unusual set of things that you've never seen before, and they certainly didn't teach it in your class, and now it's got a different name associated with it, look through that list. If it's not on the objective list, don't spend a lot of time worrying about it, because CompTIA stays very, very, very close to that list when they make their exams. So if you know everything that's on your objective list, you're going to pass. If they even ask for something that's off the objective list, here's a little interesting tidbit for you, is they even tell you before you start the exam, we might ask you something that's not even remotely close to being on the objectives, but we're not going to take any points off, and you're not going to gain any points. It is effectively non-graded question, which that's kind of frustrating if you're trying to take an exam and you come across a question, you're wondering, where in the world did they get this information? For instance, this happened in the last exam. You have, if you look at the exam objectives, Windows 8 is not currently on CompTIA's exam objectives. But when you take the exam, you might get a Windows 8 question. And that's a good example of a question they might ask you that doesn't count for anything, and it doesn't count against you on the exam. So as you're reading these books, they like to put a ton of information in there. Don't worry about it so much. Go back to the exam objectives, sync up with those, and I think you'll be just fine.
I have another question, Professor. Sorry to interrupt you.
Sure, no.
This is what happened. I went to school, and it's not an ego, I'm not bragging. I graduated with an 85 mark,
Great.
my diploma.
Good.
And now I did, I know some things, and I did my A plus. I did I did just a quiz or a normal one through online, and I got 60.
Yep.
Almost 60. Is that okay, or is it because I'm lost that I went through school for 1 year and a half, and I graduated with 75 and 85 marks, but now that I'm doing my A plus, my marks are going down.
You have to wonder what happened. I thought I already knew all this information. One of the things I ran into, I first
you
took.
can help me on this one.
First, there's a couple of things to consider. First, you have to be very particular about where you get your content online, especially if it's a practice exam. There are a huge number of practice exams online, and the practice exams are free. The challenge that I've seen, though, is very often these exams are being created by people who mean to do well, but the questions aren't really designed very well. It really takes a lot of work to create a question that goes directly to the objectives and presents answers that are very clear about what you need to answer for that particular question. And I know this because I create a new pop quiz every day, and it's taken years, literally, of creating these pop quizzes to build a question that is pointed, that's also challenging, but also has a very clear answer in that answer list. So I would recommend that you find a set of sample questions that is very specific to the exam. And it may be a case where you want to buy something. I recommend GTS Learning, which is a partner that I have on the Professor Messer website. They have online sample questions you can buy. If you want it in a book, there's a really good book from called Exam Cram Sample Questions. There's a lot of different exam cram books out there, but the one that I've seen that's really good is Exam Cram Sample Questions. It's a book of nothing but questions, and they're really well-designed questions that you can sit down and take and get a really good understanding of whether you know the content or not. So don't worry so much that this online test that may have even been outdated or not well designed didn't quite hit the mark with what you were trying to do. I think you should probably look around for some better resources.
Dear Professor, I do have an exam cram. That's what they sent me from school now.
Oh, good. Now, is that the Exam Cram A+ study book, or does it say on the cover Exam Cram Sample Questions? Or I think it's Sample Questions is what they have, or Exam Cram. No, somebody in the chat room will correct me.
Exam Cram 6th edition, 220-801, 220-802.
So that sounds like the... Thick. Yep, that sounds like they have two books. They have one that is a normal study book. The one I'm looking for, practice questions. It's called Exam Cram, and it has on the front 220-801 and 220-802, and it has practice questions listed on there as well. That's the book I'm referring to. That's nothing but questions. And I think you probably need both. You need a good book to study from, but I think it's also good to have a book or some other type of content with questions and answers as well, just as a sanity check. But it really does need to be a high quality question and answer book.
And I have another question, Professor. After, I really enjoy this. I really know, I really enjoy doing this for a living. And
me too.
Can you go? You necessarily have to go back to school, or can you take your, I like my networking later and my security certificates. Can you do those on your own?
I think you can, and I think it's an evolution in IT. When I started with technology, I started in college. Well, really, I started before college. I learned programming and tried to work on these really it was the very beginning of home computing. It was before IBM PCs. When I was in college, the college had a mainframe and supercomputer center that I was an operator. I was the lowest of lowest grunts. They get students to come in and take the midnight shifts and the weekend shifts, and you effectively take printouts off a printer and plots off a plotter, and you mount tapes. It was the most boring of boring jobs, but I thought it was great because there's supercomputers in the room, and they're liquid nitrogen cooled, and you're learning about different ways of computing, and you're seeing people do different things. And at the time, I didn't know what I'd want to do. My first job that was outside of college was effectively delivering printer cables and doing memory upgrades and hard drive upgrades on IBM systems. Again, kind of the technical technician kind of break fix job. And it just evolves from there. I got an interest in operating systems from there. I got an interest in networking from there. Windows came out. If you told me when I was in college that ultimately I would have a YouTube channel and I just put videos out on the internet, and I'd be doing things with operating systems, and I'd be working with Windows was not even a concept then. Twitter wasn't around 6 years ago. Those types of things just change, and you kind of roll with it. It's kind of an evolution. So whatever you think you're going to be doing now, you will be doing some of it, but it's going to change in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, and you have no other choice but to learn as you go, to watch podcasts and listen to podcasts, to grab books, to read articles online. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today, of things that I'm doing this summer to keep my knowledge going with technology, because I think it's just something that you're going to be doing for the rest of your career. Otherwise, you'll never be able to keep up with what's going on.
Thank you for that. Very well said, Professor. Thank you.
Henry, thank you for calling. It was great for you to call in. Thanks for having fun with us on the quiz, and hopefully we'll hear from you next time too.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. I learned a lot from you too. That's why I keep you on Facebook. You have helped me quite a bit, and what you said too. I keep up. I try to find broken computers and just learn as I go. That's
a great way to do it.
And you know, I learned that if you see they're not called mistakes. It's a process of learning.
That's right. You don't learn unless it's broken. That's my mantra.
And that's why before now I'm like, okay, it was a mistake, and this is how I'm going to learn, because I changed for the very first time a screen.
Oh yeah, on a laptop.
Yes,
on
a laptop.
And it worked.
And I learned the hard lesson. I put it back all together. And I learned I learned now not to say it's not a mistake, it's a process learning, that to remember the connection to be connected properly, or put at least a tape on the back.
You will know very quickly.
Yes. So it's a great learning process. But thank you, Professor, for all the info, and I'll keep on watching you and answering questions, because I have a year to write the A+.
Henry, thank you for calling. Keep us also updated with how your A+ training goes as well. We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day, Professor.
Thank you, Henry. Take care. One of the things that I was just mentioning is that I try to keep track of technology. So if you're taking your A+ certification, and by the way, there's a lot of people in the queue for calls, and I will get with you as soon as I can with that piece. But Henry brought up information that kind of got me thinking. One of the projects that I'm doing this summer is that my kids are out of school. We just have a lot of time now in the summer. One of my sons is really interested in technology, which I think is great. I think he's really more interested in gaming, which I actually kind of think is great as well. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But he would like to have a computer that's more powerful. If there's one thing that's true with gaming computers, is there's never one that's powerful enough. You always need the better motherboard, the additional memory, the SSD, et cetera, et cetera. And so as I'm looking at the A+ requirements, a lot of times we're trying to learn these concepts, and it's in such a bubble that we don't understand how these concepts apply. So Henry was just mentioning about CPU technologies, motherboard chipsets, understanding what type of memory and the statistics on memory. We talk about the CAS values, the CAS values on memory. Well, why does that even apply, and how would I do that? So one of the things that myself and my sons are going to be doing this summer is creating a gaming computer. And we're going to document this. We're going to put it on the Professor Messer YouTube channel and do a lot of things with it. And the place that we're going to do all of this is we've gone out to pcpartpicker.com, pcpartpicker.com. And it's a great website because it lists out CPUs, motherboards, memory, storage, video cards, power supplies, cooling systems, other accessories, monitors, operating systems. The whole thing is in there. And then I'm going to buy it, and he's going to put it together. We're going to put together. It's going to be kind of like working on a car, except we're going to be working on a computer together, and we're going to be documenting this. So I want him to have the experience of putting it together to really, what do you use? Where do you put the standoffs? What type of case do you get? But then you also have to put that A+ piece into it. Now, let me give you an example of this. This is the PC Part Picker website. Now, I was going through and just trying to do this because I created a build here where I wanted a particular CPU. So I click on CPU. Well, which one do you get? There's so many CPUs. This is just the Intels that I pulled up. But you've got a choice of speeds, of cores, of the amount of power required for these CPUs, performance information. There's even ratings that people put on the CPUs. So if you can sort by ratings, for instance, and see what the top rating is, it's an Intel Core i7 4770K, which I think is actually the one we're going to be getting for this particular build. And you can see where what the prices are for these CPUs out there. So this is, yep, and then the chat room's like, oh yeah, getting an i7. Oh yes, we're going to get an i7 for this, absolutely. But then when you choose that i7, you may want to see what motherboard would go with it. And you know, if you ever look and try to do this yourself, you have to go through documentation of the motherboard. Does it support this? Well, on the PC Part Picker website, it's already done this for you. So it will show you, you see a compatibility filter is on. It will only show you motherboards that apply towards that particular CPU that you've selected. So I think in our particular case, we're going to go with one of the latest Intel motherboard chipsets, which is a Z97, and have a look at that. That is where you have to now start figuring out how much do I spend on this. But I'm going to, for instance, go down to, we're going to go down this Asus. Which one did I choose for this? It was the, I'll just click on it. I've got it up here in my list. It's the Asus. I just picked this one out of here because it happened to have the wireless on it, and it shows you pictures of the motherboard. Ooh, like the pictures. But more importantly, here's where this applies back. So this takes, the memory slots has 4 memory slots of 240 pin DIMMs. So this goes back to what we were learning with memory with their A+. It uses DDR3 memory, and it supports these speeds of memory. It supports all, I can't even afford the speeds, the higher speeds of DDR3 that this motherboard supports. So that's when I know I've got, yes, in the chat room, everybody's putting, oh yeah, that's going to cost you. They're putting the dollar signs up to do that piece. Hold on just a moment. I've now created a problem for myself where now I can't talk because you've made me laugh. I may have mentioned earlier I'm recovering from that cold, so you guys are cracking me up. So this is where you can go through. This motherboard supports a maximum memory of 32 gig. Here's an important thing. Again, we're getting now into the storage. It supports SATA of 6 gigabit per second, 6 SATA 6 gig ports. Also has SATA Express port on it, some onboard Ethernet. It supports USB 3.0. So if you've gone through all of those different settings, then you know, okay, USB 3.0, that's what I want. It's faster than the 2.0, and I may want to connect some other pieces. There's some really, a lot of fun you can have with this, going through the different configurations. Another good example is memory. This will be the last one I choose for you, because they show you the type of memory that's here. My compatibility filter is on, so you saw that it got rid of everything that didn't apply. If I turn off the compatibility filter, you can see it's even showing me 204 pin SODIMMs. Well, wait, that's for a laptop. I don't need that. Well, of course I don't. Let's turn on my compatibility filter, and it gets rid of everything that doesn't apply. Everything is a 240 pin DIMM. Here's my CAS values. So now I can even sort by that if I'm really looking for some very efficient memory, or the fastest possible memory possible. Maybe I don't need that. Maybe price is my concern. Let's sort by price. Maybe the amount of memory. So you can even scroll down and say, I want 16 gig we want that in 2 8 gig modules. I can choose that. It's going to filter out all of those pieces and show me the 16 gig that's in 2 8 gig modules and see what the prices are. Just so much fun you can have with that. So much fun that you can go through. I spent hours last night building out different configurations and wondering which chipset should I use and what type of memory would go with that. Oh, we got to find SSDs. And if you've ever done this and you're trying to figure out what SSD is going to be best, what type of memory is best, what type of case should I get, good sources for that are things like Tom's Hardware. You Google Tom's Hardware, which I think is tomshardware.com, and you'll be able to go through many different hardware-oriented. So if you're somebody who's interested in doing that, that may be a really good place to go. Well, we've got some other people on hold, so enough of my talking. I've got other questions for the people on hold as well. So we're going to go to that piece. We'll take one more call, and I have some other things to ask of you as well with those pieces. So I'm going to pull up a new question to have available, and we're going to go to the next person who's been holding forever. You're so patient in the 404 area code. Are you there, caller?
Yes.
Hi, what's your name?
Clark.
Hello, Mark. Thanks for calling in today. Are you ready to answer a question?
No, my name is Clark.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Clark.
Did I get it wrong?
Yeah.
What was the name? I'm sorry.
Clark, like Clark Kent.
Clark. Very good. Even better. Thank you for correcting me. So, are you ready to answer a question from me before you ask?
I'll try.
Okay, good. So,
Sure.
Here's one that I've got. This is people hate printer questions. So, of course, I've got you a printer question.
I hate it.
Okay, good. This is perfect. Here's my printer question for you. You are printing to a network laser printer, but you notice as you're selecting this in your Windows front end that the paper tray that has the company letterhead that's plugged into this printer isn't on your printer options. You don't even have the choice of choosing that particular paper tray. So what would be the most likely cause of this? Would that be because the printer tray is out of letterhead paper? Maybe you didn't even realize it was out of paper. Or is it that the printer is not currently powered on? That would certainly be an issue, but I don't know if that's what's causing this problem. Is it that the printer driver that you have is for a different printer model? Or is it because the paper tray has been physically removed from that slot on the printer? Do you have any idea of which one of those would apply in this particular case?
Probably the fourth one. I think the paper tray has been removed.
Paper tray's been removed from the slot. So I'm going to have some folks also that are listening in. I'll pop up the QR code so they can see that as well. Sorry, I didn't have that up first. So this is whenever I get my questions in for the month, people want more and more printer questions. And I think it's probably a good idea. There's a huge section on the A+ exam that's on printers, and it's on laser printers, it's on dot matrix printers, it's on inkjet printers. And the problem, or I think the biggest problem people have, is the integration of the operating system to the printer itself. And so I think this is a good question that applies towards that, which is that you're looking at something in the operating system that doesn't match what's going on in the printer right now. So we somehow have to correlate those things together. We've got 16 responses. So let's pull up and see what the responses are. When the folks have voted and say, one person said the printer tray is out of letterhead paper. 6 people agree with you, Clark, that say the printer tray has been removed from the slot. However, 14 people, I think, have voted so far, and I think they're right, which is the printer driver is for a different printer model, which in this particular case is the case. And here's why. And this is, I think, is an important thing to consider when you're looking at printers. Is that the printer driver that you're looking at, the Windows front end to the printer, has very little to do with the physical functional makeup of the actual printer somewhere down the line. All you're able to see from your human being on Windows is what the printer driver is telling you. So if the printer driver isn't showing something, then the printer driver is either incorrect or it's not the right printer driver. If you were to remove a paper from a slot, if you were to remove the cartridge, if you were to run out of paper, if the printer was not turned on, that wouldn't change what you saw in Windows. So if anything ever looks weird or out of sync with what you're seeing with a printer in your Windows front end, it is almost always going to be printer driver related. So maybe that will help you when you're ready to take the exam with printer questions. So do you have a question for me today? Yeah.
I have 2 questions and that's it. And I love your show. I love your I've learned a lot from you than learning from any other sources.
Great.
Not to brag for you, but yeah, you have the most
information that there is in the exam. I'm taking the exam in 2:45 Eastern time, actually. So that's why I was like,
2 hours.
Come on, get the call in. Yeah, 2 hours. I know. I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
In the A+ test, I think they're gonna do a simulation. My friend told me that there's. He didn't tell me the answer, but it's just for me to figure out.
Okay. Don't give us specifics, but yes, they do. They do talk. They do have what they call performance-based questions on the exam, which don't necessarily mean simulations. So this is an important thing to keep in mind. Doesn't mean that you'll be at a command line necessarily. In fact, on the 801 exam, there's. Are you taking your 801 or you're taking your 802?
801. 801.
Okay. So the 801 doesn't even have command line in the exam objectives. So what you may get are matching. You may get fill in the blanks, or you may get put things in order, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that put things in order.
Yeah.
That's the one.
And you can think in the 801, there's probably a lot of good examples for that. I think I did a sample question on my daily pop quiz, which showed the types of, I think it was the type of interfaces like Ethernet, Gigabit, USB 3.0, and DisplayPort, FireWire, and said put them in order from slowest to fastest. That's the type of thing you can think about seeing on the exam. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's hard to study for those because there's not a lot of good examples for that. You kind of have to think about it yourself and figure out what they might ask. But if you know the content, you should be able to apply it back to the performance-based questions.
Okay.
One of the things I've also heard that is, I think, important to consider, somebody was saying in the chat room that they took their 801 and they used to have, and you may still find this, all the performance-based questions were at the beginning of the exam. And one of the recommendations was skip over all of them, go directly to the multiple choice questions, finish those, and the multiple choice questions might help jog your memory for the performance-based. But somebody in the chat room said, I got my performance-based questions interlaced now within the multiple choices. So I think they may be switching some things up on the exam. You should be ready for anything, really. So is there a particular concern or question about the performance-based questions you have, or anything else about the exam that you're about to take?
The only thing is, it's not only the performance-based exam, but also in practical as well. Like, for example, if you're going to build a graphics computer, like, for example, a CAD, and then a gaming, and which processor, the most processor would you use on it if you only have to choose two? This is going to put a processor.
This is one of those things that it's a new topic that's on the A+ exam, which is building systems for particular functions. And there's a list of those in the exam objectives. I'm trying to find exactly the section for that so I can put together what those things would be. It would be designing custom computer systems, section 1.9 on the exam objectives.
1.9, yeah.
Those two types of systems, by the way, the CAD system, the computer-aided design, and the gaming system, very similar to each other. I would think gaming system is probably the higher end of those two, but both have certain requirements to it. The computer-aided design, for instance, is one that requires a lot of a big processor primarily, and it does need to have high-end video. So it's kind of, I would think if you got a choice between those two things, or you're trying to figure out which is faster, the processor in both of those is going to be pretty comparable. One of the things that I found on the A+ exam is they don't give you a lot of questions where there's going to be a decision point that's so vague. Usually the decision points are very specific about what you're doing. So don't worry that they're going to put you in a situation where you're going to have to decide, what kind of processor do I pick if I have to pick between a CAD CAM and something like a gaming. I don't think you'll be put in that position. I think instead you'll be asked another question about something like a media center and a lower end computer, like a thin client, for instance, like one of these. I think that's the cases that you'll probably get a more wider perspective on. And I'm guessing with that, I don't know for sure, but I would, generally speaking, the questions on the A+ exam are very specific with those things.
Well, I'll let you know after I take the test today. Then I'll email you.
Yeah, well, you can tell me, was it vague or not? Were these questions on the money or not? Did
yeah.
So have you gone through the exam objectives and used that as a checklist?
Actually, that's what I did. I did a checklist, actually, of everything I need to know. The only thing too, the next question I have is, if I am going to, it's about networking, so basic networking.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask about the channels. Like, for example, I'm gonna put a network on my own, but I'm gonna put it within a network. So, is there any differences with the channel that I'm gonna use because it's in the same network?
Give me an example of something you might configure this way.
Okay, for example, I'm at my house and I have a different router upstairs. This is just an example. It's not realistic.
Okay.
I have a router upstairs, and then there's another router upstairs for my guests, just for example.
Okay.
And my guest router, for example, they're both open.
Right.
And they're on the same network.
Okay.
Does the channel make a difference? Like, do I put what channel 1 or 3 or 5? Does that make a difference?
Your wireless channels that you're using is specifically what you're referring to. The wireless frequencies that are in use, and in fact, they do. They're remarkably important. We go into a little bit of this with the A+ exam. I'm going to pull up some of the wireless standards that are on here because there is a section, I think it's 2.6, that talks about installing a wireless router, specifically for Soho, but I think it applies across the board. And on there is a section about wireless channels and wireless encryption. And I think there's some other settings, some other configuration options available or topics available in the A+ exam. But the channels are extremely important. I have the scenario you just mentioned. In my house, I have 3 access points. And it's important for the access points that you don't overlap channels because especially if the access points are close to each other, they will fight with each other. They will have common mode overload. They will overload the frequency. When one is sending traffic, the other one can't receive very well because there's interference on that particular frequency. So it's remarkably important. Let's say with 802.11b is a good example of this. People always say use channel 1, channel 6, and channel 11 because none of those 3 channels overlap with each other. And that's a similar scenario to what I've created in my house. One of my access points is on one of those, one is on 6, one is on 11. So I've separated them out on the B channels, for instance. I'm not using B anymore, but I think that's a good example of what you have to keep in mind. Definitely stay away from frequencies that are going to conflict with each other.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that's it. I think you answered my question, and I hope I pass the test.
I hope you do too. Good luck with that. Let us know how it goes, Clark.
All right, thank you so much.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Well, that's exciting. He's going to have to leave soon to take advantage of that. There are challenges, of course. A lot of the newer access points will automatically figure out what's out there and set their channels to something that is least that has the least chance of creating interference. When you're in apartment buildings, it becomes exceptionally hard because everybody's got a wireless access point. Now our mobile devices do wireless as well, so we can take information and share it between our laptops and other mobile devices. We've got such a challenge and only so many frequencies available. So sometimes it's nice to be able to get a third-party app. There's a lot of free apps out there that you can run on your computer that will examine what's out there already. You can see what your neighbors are running and then manually perhaps even choose something different on your side. Yeah, it's another one of those things that becomes remarkably helpful. Now, if you are studying for your A+ certification, one of the things that I will let you know is you've got a lot of study options available out there. One of them is related to the content that you have to know. I think that's one of the challenges is just being able to know everything that you need to know on the exam. There's so much content. You have to know all the speeds, all the feeds, all the pieces associated with it. And that's why I created, you've probably seen my study guides. So I have study guides that I've taken every slide of all the content from my certification videos, and I've put them onto a single study guide. So these are really PDFs that I've created that have everything on them. For instance, here is a good example of my 802 study guide that has on it all the things that you need to know for system requirements. This is the first page of it. Here's an overview of Windows 7 and the different options available. And if you need to upgrade Windows, here's the options available. Here's the command lines, every command line that you'll need to know for the A+ exam. So I tried to create these PDFs that would give you everything. So you could, of course, go through my videos and make these notes yourself, or you can pay $10 to have these study guides. They're available to you in electronic form. You can download them immediately. And all of that goes, of course, back to support keeping the website running. And a lot of you have already gotten these study guides. I get great feedback from you, and I really do appreciate you being able to support those. It becomes exceptionally helpful to take care of the hosting and the bandwidth. That's one of the great things is the popularity of the website also increases the bandwidth costs of the website. So we have to be able to manage those things out. So thanks so much for supporting the website and doing that. We've got some other folks on the line. I want to go to another call. Thanks in the chat room also for reminding me with those pieces as well. I think that's useful to have those people in the back of my head there. Let's go to the 559 area code. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Hello, caller. I hear you and some other little tiny people in the background.
Yeah, that is my kids.
Excellent. What's your name?
Excellent.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
This is Jedi Penguin.
Oh, hey. Oh, yay. Good to see you. Thanks for calling in. So I have a question for you first. Before you ask a question, are you ready for it?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. So
it's 3 years since I took the A+, so...
Well, good. So this should be old hat at this point. Let's hope, because I went through these questions myself and thought, I don't know if I remember the answer to these. Here's the question anyway, is specifically related to, it's a networking question. So this might be, so sort of a networking question. I think it falls into what we're doing. Which of these technologies is commonly used for printing and uses a direct line of sight for communication? So already this is a wireless question for printing. The options are infrared, Bluetooth, 802.11, and mobile broadband. And remember, no answering in the chat room. So which of these technologies can be used for printing with a direct line and require a direct line of sight? Infrared, Bluetooth, 802.11, or mobile broadband? Do you have any ideas of what that might be?
Yeah, it's going to be infrared.
That's going to be infrared. And I think that's probably a good choice. And you can almost do break it down into a different set of things. There's Bluetooth, of course, is not line of sight. You could be walking around and Bluetooth works fine. 802.11, certainly not line of sight. None of us would be using it if it had required line of sight to the access point. And mobile broadband, of course, is not going to be, that's everywhere. You certainly don't need a line of sight to the mobile broadband antennas outside of your house to be able to do that piece. So you were right on the money with that one. Folks are agree with you. By far, the number of voters so far, definitely infrared is down that line. So, well, thanks for calling. You have a question for me today.
Yeah, I want to say more of a thank you 3 years ago when I visited your site to study for the 701 and 702.
Have I been doing this that long?
Yeah.
I guess I have, yes.
Yeah, I've more of a statement to anybody that's listening. The best way of learning, I mean, go through all your books and your videos, but get hands-on experience. So I felt like I learned more by actually going and doing anything that was the content that was in the books and, actually applying it.
I agree. A lot of people even say get a old computer and rip it apart, take it completely apart, and then put it back together. and see if it works when you do all those things. I think also command line information is good as well. In my videos, I go through and do a lot of command lines, and I do them in a way that you could repeat it on your computer if you wanted to. I think the hands-on, not only for the 801, very hardware specific, especially if you haven't worked with hardware. Could you imagine jumping into the A+ exam? And a lot of people do this. They've never touched a computer. How hard that must be. And I think getting the hands-on piece could be really, really important to learning what SATA is, because you actually touch it. How did...
The way I did it was when I was taking the A+, I was in college, and I was going through the Cisco Network Academy, and my instructor, I don't know why, but I guess he knew where I was studying the A+, that he, anytime he had a computer he had to fix, he always gave it to me.
Okay.
So, I think about formatting and partitioning disk and swapping out hard drives, anything with the, so that was what helped me a lot with taking the A+, was because I kind of thank him because he always gave me computers to work on.
One of the things that I have often see, I read the Reddit subreddits a lot for IT, for people doing computer repair, and a lot of the times people are saying, I got this job, but I really am not comfortable with a lot of the things they're throwing at me. I've never done these things before. I feel like I'm an imposter. I've kind of snuck in behind the lines. And I almost want to write back and say, we all feel this way, because you can't know every possible thing that there is to know about PCs. You can't possibly know every possible thing there is to know about networking, about security, about databases, about operating systems. You're constantly going to be learning, and very often it is a trial by fire. You're given a task. Now I have to figure out how to make this task work. You almost have to be as good at Googling as you are at actually performing the task.
If we didn't have Google, I'd be out of the job.
I remember the days back in the day where there was no Google, and there was a time when this was true, and you used other resources. You used bulletin boards. There was a lot more emphasis in books. We used to have, a lot of people still do have enormous bookshelves, but that was our primary source of content, and you had to create an enormous library, because if you didn't have that library and you ran across a problem with your network, where were you going to go to get more information? And you collected a bunch of people that you knew, and you kept them on speed dial. That was what we did. Google's changed everything.
Yeah, at work, I'm always we're doing a lot of stuff with the cloud. So every day, hey, we want to do all our backups to the cloud, and we want the cheapest solution. So you have to do research and learn different products and learning something new, every day.
That's remarkable. I'm finding the same thing with the things that I do during the day. There's a lot more cloud-based. There's a ton more virtualization. Virtualization, we thought, oh, we got it now. We're done virtualized. Virtualization is not anywhere near done yet. Software-defined networks has changed everything. So we're still trying to keep up and figure out those pieces. I'm still learning concepts and ideas about those things, trying to get hands-on. And I think that's what you ultimately have to do, is get the hands-on and start working with it.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and have a good day.
Thanks for calling. Take care. And if you are someone who is your A+ certification and you would like to get continuing education units for watching this particular live event, or you're watching it on replay, you can send me an email directly. Go to the Professor Messer website. There's a Contact Us link right at the top, and send me a note that says, I watched your May 2014 study group. The secret code word for that CE credit is hands-on, and that way I'll be able to send you an email that certifies that you did indeed watch this particular video live, or watch this particular video after the fact. That's one of those useful things if you're collecting those continuing education units. There is we're at the top of the hour. We have gone through an hour of this particular study group, and I feel like I haven't been able to do much at all. I still have some people on the line. I like to end this up in an hour, so if you're watching for credit, that you'll have your 1 hour there. But we've got a lot of people still on the phone. If you're there, please stay there. We're going to do an after show, and in the after show, we'll just keep doing this. Why not? We've got you on the phone. I've got another 60 minutes on that after show to be able to do that. But if you are someone who is following us and keeping track of what we're doing here at Messer Studios, then you can always watch what we're doing on Twitter and on YouTube by going to ProfessorMesser.com/Twitter, ProfessorMesser.com/YouTube. You want to figure out where I am, go to ProfessorMesser.com/ the name of that social networking. I wonder if I have an Instagram one up. I really should. And somebody even said you should do a Snapchat. I'm thinking that might be a really bad idea. But maybe I'll do one. You can find out. Go to ProfessorMesser.com/something. You'll find me. If you want to know more about those study guides, you can go to ProfessorMesser.com/A+SG, APLUSSG, to learn more about those study guides. GTS Learning always helps us sponsor this. They have books. They have sample tests that you can take. They have online materials. They have sample labs that you could take and study for your A+ certification, all in virtual labs, and be ready for those simulation and performance-based questions. You can find that information at ProfessorMesser.com/freestyle labs. And of course, we do this study group every month. You can learn more about that at ProfessorMesser.com/calendar and keep up with those pieces as well. And that brings us to the end of that 1 hour of the A+ study group. I appreciate everyone coming to the live event that we have. Thanks for sending me your questions. I could not do it without your support. We'll see you next time on the A+ study group. Okay, I'm going to stop my recording and restart my recording. So I've got those pieces there. Let's keep going in the after show here so we can see. Oh, we've got so many people. I have a feeling I won't be able to get through all of these. So I have more questions here, but I think we got through quite a few questions on the study group. Maybe I'll do one more. Or if you're on the phone and you would like a question, you can ask. I may shotgun them at the end. We'll just have people answer that. So let's go to this poor person's been holding forever on the 505 area code. Are you there, caller?
I am. Hi, Professor.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Jesse, and I'm not going to have you throw a question at me.
Okay. Well, what's your question, Jesse? Uh-oh. Did I lose Jesse? Oh, my gosh. He's gone. I don't know what happened to him. Disappeared completely. Well, call back. I will see you when you call back in, and I'll go right to you after that. Well, shotgun, that's an easy way to get through the those particular pieces. Let's go to 501 area code. Who's there? I don't hear
Hello?
you. Hi, I hear you way back there. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
My name's Alex Fatherly.
Is it Al?
Alex Fatherly.
Oh, okay. Alex, how are you? Thank you for calling. What question do you have for us today?
Well, I actually got a question about the 802 exam.
Okay,
I'm half certified right now and I'm currently in a job, and I got 90 days to get A+ certified.
So you've done the 801, in other words.
Yes, I passed the 801.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay. I actually have a question about the performance-based questions for the command line.
Indeed.
Yes. I know you can't answer it specifically, but I remember seeing one question about, like, two computers to where one that is trying to get a hold of them for, like, a share. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I sort of do. One of the problems with the challenge that I have with taking a number of very specific questions of things that people may have heard about on the exam is that when you take the A+ exams, and you probably saw this when you took the 801, the first thing you have to do is electronically sign the candidate agreement that says, I won't say anything about what I've seen here. So it's effectively a non-disclosure agreement that you're not going to even mention these things out there. And so that applies both to the 801 and the 802, of course. So I am tentative to take specific questions that people may have been provided or have seen that apply directly back to the exam. But if you're able to ask the question in a way that doesn't specifically mention exam materials, I would certainly be glad to at least approach the concepts that may deal with that.
Okay. Let me think.
Yeah, that may be a difficult challenge. Hit me.
All right. Yeah. So you have two computers, and like they're throwing shares at each other, and one computer changes its IP address. How exactly would you reconnect with them after they change their IP address.
You know, one of the things that is kind of nice about the Windows operating system is a lot of the details of the IP addressing and the sharing are effectively automatic. There is a lot of behind the scenes protocols that are used to broadcast where somebody happens to be, what IP address they happen to be, what shares they have associated with them. It's not at all uncommon to be able to do that. And if somebody was to have a share on the network and for some reason change their IP address, which is relatively unusual, but it does happen when people go from a wired network to a wireless network. They unplug and they go to a meeting, their IP address is going to change. And behind the scenes, Windows is able to take care of that on its own and update everybody's, they call it a browser, update everybody's browser on the network. This is not a web browser, but it's a browsing function that's done inside of Windows to know what machines are out there and where they happen to be. Now, if you are connecting to a share and not using someone's name, if you're connecting to a share with an IP address and their IP address changes, yeah, you're going to lose connection to that share. That's why it's inadvisable to connect to somebody's share using a specific IP address. It's much better to use the name of the machine. So it would be Mike's PC / the name of the share to be able to connect to that share piece. So anytime there is some type of change in IP addressing, you could always try restarting your IP address to renew your IP address, to release and renew, which causes Windows to now go back out and perform that function of identifying who's on the network. That may be a quick way to do it. There's always that thing people say is, have you turned your computer off and back on again? That would also be another good way to do it if somebody else changed things around and you needed to refresh the networking piece. That's one common way. Or disable and enable the network interface port on the computer as well. Generally speaking, though, Windows should be able to figure that out on its own.
Okay. Yeah.
I think your biggest challenge on the 802 is going to be some of those command line options. It's going to be understanding how to use the operating system. There's some security in there as well. It's not an easy exam, but I think if you know your command lines, you're probably well on your way to passing that exam.
Yes. I've been watching your videos, and I like how you just described every single command. I mean, because I've looked for solutions to some of the questions that I remember. So, yeah, your videos, I know they're really helpful.
What I try to do is make them very short. I used to have these very long introductions to the video, what you're going to learn in the video today, and that type of thing. But ultimately, by the time I had done that, I could have just shown you what you were going to learn today. Why did I go through all of that? So I try to make them really short, really specific, really precise. I don't go outside the exam objectives for that reason. I could talk about command lines forever and the things you can do. But I try to really focus the effort. And my goal is to make other videos that go outside the scope of A+. But I think for the A+, it's important to focus on those objectives.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, good luck with that. And let us know how your testing goes on the 802. When are you taking your exam? Do you know?
I'm thinking either not next week, but the week after.
Okay. So relatively soon. So let us know how that goes. I'm really interested to know what your experience might be.
I will.
Good luck with that. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Take care. All right. And I saw that Jesse called back. So let's try this again. I think it was Jesse, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hi, Professor.
Hi. I don't know what happened. That's probably something I clicked on my side. What can we do for you today?
Oh, no worries. Well, thank you very much for taking my call back right away. I appreciate that. I am a brand new student, and I recently purchased a CompTIA book that accompanies your videos.
Okay, good, yeah.
And now this is kind of silly because obviously I'm overlooking something here. But, in the review questions after each unit, it says that you can check your responses against the model answers that are published on the course support website.
Okay.
And I'm a little confused as to where exactly that is. I'm not sure if this is with you or if it's through the CompTIA website or if it's through GTS. And probably an oversight on my part, but I'm just now finding where I can check my answers against the model question.
I don't know. That is GTS Learning's book. GTS Learning has an ebook and a physical book that is for the 801 and the 802. That's the one I believe you're talking about, where they have put my videos in the book itself. They've embedded them in there. So if you're on the ebook side, you can scroll through and you're learning about CPUs, and then right after you've learned about the CPUs, you've read about them, my video is embedded there. You can click a button, it plays my video on CPUs, which I thought was a really cool idea. They brought to me and said, we want to do this. If you have the physical book, they have a QR code, and you scan the QR code. Now you're watching the video on your mobile device, which is also a pretty neat idea. I don't know, but and I think you sent me an email yesterday or earlier in the week about this, and my goal was to get back with GTS Learning and ask them, but circle back with me. I'll talk to GTS Learning directly. You may also want to send them an email. It's their book. I don't edit their book. I provide the video content. I really use their book to create my videos. So it's a very nice partnership. They've created the content. I use their content to build out the videos that are here and a lot of the tables and the other things that you see. But I don't directly edit or write the book, but I know who does. So I will talk to them directly and get an answer directly from them. And if you could do me a favor of sending me just the page number that has that in there. I already have a copy of the book. I'll look at that and see where that is, refer back to them, and we'll sync up together. And next study group will make sure everybody knows where that is.
Great, thank you so much. And I also wanted to just say that your videos are very helpful, very practical, and it's really nice to use them with the book, even though, I'm just obviously at the beginning of this. But I definitely appreciate the service that you're providing, and it's been very helpful for me. So thanks for that. And I look forward to hearing from you concerning what's going on with GTS.
Yep, great. My pleasure. We love doing it. That's one of the things. We want to do more of these. And I really like that you've got both of those things. I often say my videos are here for free. I've gone through every exam objective there is, but you still need other things. You need books. You need Q&A. And so I think you've got the right materials. And I love the GTS Learning books, or else I wouldn't have partnered with them to begin with.
Great.
Best of luck with your studies.
Thanks so much, Professor.
Let us know how it goes.
I really appreciate it.
And if you have other questions, let me know.
I certainly will. Thanks so much, and have a great weekend, sir.
Take care. That's one of those. I love those GTS Learning books. I've worked with them for years now. They're good people, and I love their materials. Really helps out. Let me quickly go to the chat room with these pieces. And I love that the folks in the back of the class are being so nice about having people on the line with those pieces. Let's also go back to some of the people who have been holding forever with these pieces, especially let's go to the 559 area code. Thanks for holding. Caller, are you there? I hear some noise. Hello? Yes, hello. What's your name?
Nick.
Is it Nick?
Me.
Oh, it's hard. It's really hard to hear. You must be on a speakerphone or something like that, but that's okay. We can just say you, Mr. Buddy, pal. Do you have a question for me?
I don't know if you're talking to me now because it's completely on America, but I'm looking at your 802, your 220 802 at the moment because I bought the guide, and I was just wondering if you have any recommendation to remembering the ping-t, ping-a, ping-n, like that, like the OSI model, like you have the all people seem to need data processing. Is there anything like that for the ping?
I almost understand what you're saying. It's very choppy to hear on the stream, but it sounded like you wanted some tips on remembering, and I caught OSI model in there, I think. But maybe you could be closer to the mic or give us an idea, or say again the things that you need help or would like some tips remembering.
So I'm calling from the UK, so it might be a bit dodgy, that's all. The ping for the test readability section on your
ping
study guide for 802.
Yep.
It's the ping-t, ping-a, ping-n, ping-f. is there any way of remembering that?
This is a pretty common question, specifically the ping. This is a command that you will find yourself using all the time. We say in the real world, but quite honestly, in any world, the ping command is probably the most fundamental. This is from the 802 certification, and the ping command has a lot of different options available. And I think I have a virtual box that I can bring up. Let's just go full screen on my virtual box, and we'll do one of these. Let me flip over. We'll just do I know you won't be able to see this in real time on your side, but I'll just bring it up. You can always look at the video later to see that piece. So here is, I'll make this bigger for those of you that are watching. There we go. I think I can. I might be better off. One of the things that you'll find the ping command really allows you to do quite a bit. Wow, that's really big font. Let's make this so everybody can see it. There we go. So that might be decent enough on here. Might make it a little bit bigger. The ping command's used to, as you said, confirm reachability. I want to be able to see if I can ping a device, and there's a lot of different command line options for ping. I get a lot of feedback about the certification exam. Some people are saying that the /question mark that I just did there, I did a ping /question mark that gives you all of the options that are available for the ping command. But people have told me, sorry, it's not. That's not really going to allow you to do that on the exam. So you may find that the exam that you have, you can't run these. So you have to know what these are. Now, the simple ping command, if I ping 8.8.8.8, you've seen me use that in the videos that I use, because the ping command of 8.8.8.8 takes you right to Google's DNS server. So that's a good one to ping to try out. So if you do that, you'll be able to at least see that piece and be able to deal with the pinging and be able to use it on your desktop. No matter where you go, you can always ping 8.8.8.8. Now, the ping command has a lot more options available. That means that I can communicate and get a response from 8.8.8.8. But one of the things you'll notice that it did it 4 times and it stopped. If I did a ping -T to 8.8.8.8, and you'll find you use this a lot when you're working in environments as well, that ping -T just goes and goes and goes. Let me see if I can bring it up here. So now you're seeing just constant pinging. It's going to keep pinging now until I do a Control-C. Constant, constant, constant. And what I do this for, if you're working with a network and you're rebooting a device, you're rebooting a router, you're rebooting a switch, you're rebooting a machine, and you want to know exactly when that machine stops talking on the network and when that machine is now able to communicate back to the network, this is a good way to do it. If for anyone that's ever upgraded a router or a firewall or something before, and you start your ping out to 8.8, and then you restart after the upgrade, and it goes away, and then you hope it comes back, and you're waiting for it to come back, and finally the ping command does that again. So that's a really good use of the ping-T. Other pings, like ping-A to 8.8.8, notice that it does a DNS resolution. It puts the actual name of the device there for that, which is really useful too. If you're trying to figure out what in the world's 8.8.8.8, well, let's have the machine do a DNS resolution before it actually does the ping, so I know what the host name is associated with it. And one that I also have seen that's useful to know. The exam objectives don't tell you, by the way, exactly the command lines that you have to know. So I really tried to put the most popular ones on here, and ping-in is a good example of one because the default does 4 pings. What if I wanted to do 16 pings? I could use -in with a 16, and it would ping 16 times and stop. So that's another example of how you can customize what ping is doing with those pieces. Another good one that might be useful to use is a ping-f. Ping-f is one that sends a ping, but it tells, as this packet is going out, don't fragment this ping. It's often useful to use when you're trying to communicate over VPN connections and you're wondering if the VPN connection is working properly. But that's one of those things that when you're using the ping, I think if you probably get on an exam, they probably won't ask you the -F. Probably if you were on the Network Plus exam, that probably would be one to use. But I think I included it on my study guides and in my videos just so you'd have some familiarity with those pieces. To answer your question, is there a way to remember this? Because ultimately that's what you're trying to do, is remember those pieces. There's really not a good way. The T doesn't really correlate to, I guess, continuous. You can make up some words that kind of go back to this, but you'll notice the T doesn't actually mean anything in particular. If we do our ping !/ -T is on this list, ping the specified host until stop. There's not even a T in there. So you're gonna have to make some up on your own. Ping -A for the host name. I don't even know how you're gonna have to come up with some names for this that make sense for what you're trying to do, because unfortunately these command line options don't seem to correlate back to a word. Maybe in French it means ping continuously. There's a word that starts with T, or in Spanish you might be able to use some interesting ideas to be able to do that. But I think that's one of the challenges with the command line pieces is do some hands-on. Just do some hands-on and play around with the options so that at least you have some muscle memory with being able to run the commands and those options, so that if it does pop up again, you could say, oh yeah, the T was continuous. I remember that because we ran some continuous pings to 8.8.8.8. I wish I could give you some better ideas. Maybe the chat room might have some ideas as well with those pieces. But I think in many ways, the exam is going to require some rote memorization to make that happen.
That's fine. I apologize for being really unclear as well. It's only because I'm connecting through a VPN, because the calls that I'm on at the moment will monitor what I'm on, so I connect through VPN, so I can't do that. But the reason why I mentioned the OSI model was the application presentation stuff has kind of like an anagram for it, for old people think you need data processing.
Yeah, I see. Exactly. That's so easy to remember because it puts the names right there. I just don't have any good ones for ping. I should make some. I think when T is time. Somebody in the chat room said, well, use T and it does a number of times it will ping. So maybe that's an option. There's some interesting things you can do with that. I need to create some on my own. I think you've given me a task to do. I think that would be the perfect way to keep this going. So I'm going to make some mnemonics for command lines.
Well, you can put me a question if you want as well. It'll definitely help me.
Well, in this particular case, it is so difficult. I'm afraid your line is just so difficult to hear. I think we're going to let you go with that. But good luck with your studies. And when I get some mnemonics, I'll stick it on the website, and maybe that will help.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Best of luck with your studies.
Try to get a better line in future.
Absolutely. And of course, anybody who's listening or on the phone, there's that contact us link right at the top of the website. You can always send me a note, and I try to respond back to everybody. Sometimes it's not possible, but I read every single one of those emails that comes in. So best of luck with your studies.
All right. Thank you very much.
Take care.
I will continue to watch your videos. They are very helpful.
Thank you so much, and good luck.
All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, you too. Have a nice day. Cut him off there. Sorry. So hard to hear that when it was coming through. So that's one of those things when you run into it. Skype isn't always the best for doing those things, but we managed through, didn't we? We've got some other people on the phone. Let me quickly go back to the chat room and see those pieces. Let's go back to our callers. We have some other people that have quite literally been holding for almost an hour. Are you there? The 708 area code.
708 area code is here.
Hello.
Hi, Professor Messer. My name is Patricia.
Hi. Hello again, Patricia. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
I just want to make a comment. I'm going to be volunteering for a charity agency here in Illinois.
Great idea.
And I went for the orientation, and I was advised that the supervisor there, he retired from AT&T, in the computer arena.
Right.
So I feel I'm excited about this, but I want to share that they're wanting me to be able to change out some hard drives and memory. And she also mentioned that how to get rid of viruses. I'm not really sure on how to. If a computer, because what they do at the charity company, at the agency, is that, they donate computers. People donate computers, and then we, in turn, will be fixing them and then giving them to the unfortunate families. Right. But I'm not sure how to clear a computer of a virus. Can you kind of give me a little bit of help on that particular area?
There's no single magic bullet for removing malware and removing viruses. Actually, it's not entirely true. You nuke everything on the machine and you reload the operating system. If you're going to be taking these machines and handing them off to other people, it came from one person, you're cleaning them up and sending them off somewhere else, you're going to want to nuke the machine. You're going to want to nuke everything on that hard drive, probably as a matter of course. It would seem like a bad idea to take a machine that I understand these machines already have operating systems and the like on them, but to clean them up without completely removing everything on that machine and then handing them to someone else could be wrought with problems, because there's so much private information and personal information that's hidden all over the place on these Windows devices, in caches, in temporary files, and in things you just might miss when it's going through. I would imagine your standard operating procedure for these things would be to completely erase everything in the hard drive, remove a partition, add the partition back, reformat, and load a new operating system on there. It's very time consuming, but I think ultimately that's the only way you can really remove the type of malware we have out there. And I realize there is malware that even gets into BIOS. Those are extremely rare. So I'm sure people in the chat room are mentioning that that's not 100%, but for the most part, that certainly is 100%. Now, if you do get a machine where you need to remove viruses, there are a number of tools out on the market, and there's different ones all the time. Different malware and viruses can be removed by different types of applications. The ones that are the big ones that you always hear people talk about are malware bytes. That's certainly one of the top one that's out there. Combo Fix is another one. Some of these are better than others. I'm giving you kind of a smattering of the ones that I've used through the years. There's one called the Junkware Removal Tool. That's one that I haven't used a lot of, but I've had some people with very particular malware have some good results with that. There's one called Super Anti-Spyware. That's also a pretty good one, and Toolbar Cleaner. So I'll put this into the show notes or into my my description on the replay page. But Malware Bytes, Combo Fix, the Junkware Removal Tool, Super Anti-Spyware, and Toolbar Cleaner are 5 very good options. And there's many more from many other places. Okay. I'm just giving you 5 that I tend to write down so I can answer questions like this when people say, what should I use to remove malware? Those are my top 5 that I have used before, and I've seen other people use as well.
Okay, one more quick question, Professor. I have a laptop, an old laptop that I'm working on as a little practice tool.
Oh, good.
A little practice tool. Okay, but now this laptop, it will come on, but it will not stay on. Okay, I plugged it into my outlet. I plugged it into several outlets to make sure that it's not the power supply.
Right.
Okay. Once I plug it in, it'll come on, but it will not stay on. I will unplug it. It will come on, but it will not stay on. Yeah. So with my little troubleshooting skills that I've learned, I've come to the conclusion that perhaps it may be the battery. What are your thoughts?
Well, is it one of these things where you turn it on and 2 seconds later it's turning off?
Yes.
But you are plugging it into a power source, it sounds like.
Yes.
So
right, I am.
So we can sort of remove the battery out of the equation. Even if the battery was bad, I have a laptop here that's like 6 years old that I still will open up and run an old Linux on every once in a while. It's not really that great a laptop anymore because it's so old. And as you are aware, as these laptops get older, the batteries lose their ability to hold a charge. Even if I plug this thing in all day and unplugged it, the battery won't have a charge on it. The battery for this laptop, I do keep the battery in there because it's part of the bottom of the battery of the laptop. If I tried to put the laptop down without the battery, it would feel funny on the desk. So I leave it there, but it's worthless to me because there's no battery. But I just plug it in. And I realize that if I knock the plug out, it's going to turn off. But if you're connected to a power source and that power inverter, that power supply that you have that's converting your AC power to DC is working properly, your laptop should stay on if it's getting the right amount of power. So you can sort of use that deduction there that it's either the power supply itself that you're using, that power brick that you're plugging in. And sometimes I have many different laptops here. Some of my laptops require a larger wattage power adapter than others, even though they both plug in just fine. They require a bigger wattage power supply. So make sure it's the correct power supply for that particular laptop. Or it could be something relating to the laptop motherboard itself. It's receiving the power, but the motherboard can't handle it. It shuts itself off. One of those things. It may just be a bad system. And of course, if you have a laptop that has a bad motherboard or bad charging system or something that causes it to shut off, you're going to have to replace a lot of hardware, probably the entire motherboard to fix that. So it may not be an economical replacement.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I want to commend you for all the good stuff that you're doing and helping us students out. And I just want to encourage you to continue because I certainly appreciate what you're doing for us.
That's very nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. And I absolutely will be doing more. I have lots of things on my list. I'm just getting started. So there's plenty more coming. Okay. Thanks for calling.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Wow. Patricia's holding for a long time. Thanks so much for calling in. We've got another 30 minutes left on my call-in lines. I'm getting through these pieces. Let me quickly check the chat room. Some people say pull out the battery. Maybe the battery's causing a problem. I don't think it would be. Generally, laptops aren't the issue. I don't think it's a heating issue because you turn it on and 2 seconds later it turns off. That would have to be a remarkable heating problem. It seems to be more with something that might be related to the charging system or what it thinks is charged, or maybe it doesn't see the power coming from the wall. Maybe the power, so there's so many things, but it does seem to be power related, doesn't it? And it could be any one of those. Okay, let's go to the 773 area code. Are you there, caller?
Yes, sir. How you doing, sir?
Hey, what's your name?
Darish.
Hello, is it Darish?
Darish, yes.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, fine. Thank you, Professor. Very nice to have a chance to talk to you. It's a pleasure. And your information is wonderful. And you are such a gentleman. Nice guy. Very nice guy.
Well, you just don't know me very well. But thank you for calling anyway. What question can we answer for you today?
Yeah, Professor. I'd like to know if you want to set up a kind of a network environment on your computer through what they call VMware, virtual network, to practice, different things on it and just get information on setting up networks. What would be the best way to go about it? And do you need for example, if you want to set up a Windows 2008 server, do you need to buy the CD and have it installed so that you could have a virtual access to it? Or can you do it without buying extra, operating systems?
Good questions all. And I will tell you, I've done on my website, I have my A+ certification, Network Plus certification videos, Security Plus. I also have a Microsoft Windows, it's their 7680 course. It's their Windows 7 administration course. So really, it's a deployment course. And it requires Windows Server. I had to load Server 2008 R2. It required multiple a DHCP server, a boot P server. It required separate Windows workstations. I ran the entire thing in virtual systems. So I had on my desktop 3 different machines running at the same time. In fact, the ping example I gave earlier was all done in a virtual machine that I'm running on my Mac desktop here, and I could load up multiples as well. As long as I have the memory and the disk space, I can load up as many virtual machines running at the same time. If you go to my A+ videos, the 802 videos, there are some videos on installing Windows 7, installing Windows Vista, installing Windows XP, and in those videos, I show you how to install the operating system using VirtualBox, which is a free virtualization, and it's a very similar process whether you use VirtualBox or you use VMware Workstation or VMware Player or VMware products as well, or any other virtualization software. And it takes you through how do you configure it on your machine? How do you build it out? How's the virtualization piece work? And what you're effectively doing is allocating space on the hard drive. You're creating a file, and that file is your virtual machine. It just fits everything in that file, and the entire machine is that file, which is great. If you ever need to move the machine around, you just copy the file. It's a big file, but nonetheless, it's a file. You do need the installation media. So this doesn't change the difference between a physical machine and a virtual machine. You still need an operating system. You still need the media. You still need the installation. You still need the licensing. So if when I'm running my Windows, back in the day, Microsoft had a TechNet subscription that I could subscribe to. I could pay them hundreds of dollars a year, and they would give me test licenses that I could use to run in my environment. That's exactly what you would use that for. They no longer do that. So these days you would have to buy a license for Windows Server 2008 or 2012, or use one. This may be a better option. They have a number of evaluation copies that you can get of that operating system. So if you're wanting to run Windows 8 or Server 2008, Server 2012, you may be able to find evaluation versions of that software that will run for 30 or 60 or 90 days, depending on the evaluation, that will allow you to load it up in a VM, run it in that virtual machine, and then use it for a certain amount of time, and then it will turn itself off and you have to reload it again. There's some very sneaky, hacky ways to extend it, but of course that may go beyond the scope of the user agreement that you've made to use that software, so you may just want to nuke it and then reload again. But you do need that media to be able to do it. Does that make sense?
Yes, indeed, sir. Yes, it does. It does. Yes, and I think that suggestion you said about getting an evaluation version, that also is very good too. That's a very good. That's a great help.
When I was
wondering where I could get it, but yes.
I ran into problems because one of the previous version of the A+ exam, the 700 series, required Windows 2000. It was really hard to find Windows 2000. I'm trying to remember. I think I may have actually had a licensed version of Windows 2000 in my lab, but I was going to go to eBay. I was going to go to people that I know in the industry, because here's another good way to do it. If you know somebody that works in a corporation that has Windows, they probably have old versions of these licenses on their shelves that they may be able to lend you. So there's another good way. They probably have back in a dark room somewhere just stacks of shrink-wrapped Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows operating systems, and they might have extra licenses available. That might be another option as well.
Okay, sir. One more question.
Sure.
I won't keep you too much because I know many people like to talk to you. If you buy used ones, you see them once in a while on the internet. They are broadcast. They are kind of advertising to have a used one for sale.
Right.
Would you say is that a good idea?
It's questionable. You have to be very, very careful with that. It's definitely one of those caveat emptor kind of situations where the buyer has to beware. There are a number of people on the internet that will be happy to sell you a license of a Windows operating system, and what they're giving you is a fake key generated license that ultimately will probably not work very well once you try to plug it in. Or they give you the operating system and then they give you a crack to the operating system that will allow you to use it without actually licensing. So effectively stealing the operating system and going outside the scope of the end user license agreement, which is absolutely a no-no. So you do have to be very careful. Normally, go to places that you know. Go to the Amazons of the world. Go directly to Microsoft. They may sell them. Go to some of the online retailers. I realize you probably aren't going to get the best deal that way, but you'll be absolutely sure that you're getting a legitimate operating system.
Would they provide you a student version, so to speak, version from Microsoft maybe? That's
a good point. If you are a student, Microsoft also has opportunities to give you free versions of the operating systems and software for certain schools. Somebody in the chat room can probably remind me what the name of that. It's DreamSpark, isn't it? I think it's Microsoft DreamSpark, where they will give DreamSpark. I'm going to pull it up on my page here to have a look. Yes, Microsoft DreamSpark where students have access to certain Microsoft products depending on your academic institution. And you can log in, and they have all the information on their website about what institutions apply for DreamSpark. But that's a good place to go. You may be able to get some free software that way and run some Microsoft operating systems and be able to do that without paying any money. So there's some great advantages to that as well.
Yes, indeed. Okay, Professor, thank you very kindly for information, and keep up the good work. We really need you. Thank you very kindly, sir.
Thanks for calling.
You're a wonderful guy.
Best of luck. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, sir. You too. Have a lovely day. Thank you, sir.
It's I've almost forgot about DreamSpark. Maybe even others in the chat room. Last time I looked at it, it was more of the office pieces, but quite honestly, I didn't drill into it very much to see what's there. Visual Studio is here. Let's look at the software catalog since we're here. Since we're looking at the DreamSpark, their software catalog for DreamSpark. It looks like the only thing here is Visual Studio. It seems to be Visual Studio, JavaScript, Office Development, SharePoint. So there might not be any operating systems they provide there any longer. But it may be something to look at. Your institution may also have an agreement with Microsoft to get greatly discounted versions of the operating systems or even free ones. So check with your school as well, especially there. Go to the IT department. They will certainly know at your school and say, we have an agreement with Microsoft to get. In fact, sometimes Microsoft has agreements if there is a global purchasing agreement with that organization that every student gets a copy of something. Used to be they do that with Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, all their Office apps. So there's many different licensing that they do. That's a good way to go through and see what's available there. Okay, let's see if my voice will hold out so that we can talk to the 518 area code. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Hello, what's your name?
My name's Avi.
Hello, Avi. What question do you have for us today?
Yes, I've got a question, two questions. I've got one for the book, and it's a study question. What would you recommend as your best study method? As a person who's like reading through a book like this, and I find that that I'm reading very, very slowly, and I think I could do better. How do you? What is your best study method for reading books like these? I have an ebook.
I wish I could say that what the best one is. I study all the time for other certifications that are outside the scope of what I do on my website, but I'm constantly having to study new materials, and ultimately I want to get other certifications as well. So I'm kind of doing the same thing you're doing, except with other topics that are outside the scope of my website. And I will get an ebook and I'll sit down with my tablet, and I really do have the best intentions in mind. And 5 minutes later, I'm dozing off. I can't keep my eyes open. Sometimes.
Oh my God, it's the same thing here.
So sometimes I find that what I'm doing is sitting down. Sometimes reading it on a computer is easier for me because I'm not sitting with a tablet. Other times I go completely off the book and I try to find videos, and it's sort of ironic, but sometimes I find it really hard to watch other people's videos on topics, and I kind of have to go through them knowing that it's not the best video here, but they really are going through really good content. And that's kind of the trade-off you have to make. Like, no, they're right on the target. This is exactly what I need to know. YouTube has been a great use of that. The challenge we have in our industry, and the reason I created this whole thing, is that it's really hard to find certification videos on the net that are high quality and that cover the topics that I need to know. So sometimes it's very haphazard to find those pieces. Other things I do is a lot of hands-on. So if I'm studying a firewall certification, I really just want to go to the firewall, and as they're doing it in the book, I try to follow along with what they're doing in the book. And I take a lot of notes. Somebody in the chat room last week said they just constantly take notes as they're going through the book. They may not even go back and look at their notes, but it's a way that they could stay focused on what they're reading. They're making bulleted notes of what they're doing as they go, and it's just a way to stay active and not fall asleep when they're going through the pieces. I think everybody does things differently, and I think it's hard to say that there's any particular way that works best for everybody.
Well, that's great advice. I definitely need to take more notes. That's for sure. And the second question is about my PC. I have a Dell PC.
Okay.
And it's Intel Core 2 Duo, but sometimes when I have it on, it'll just cut off, and the power will be running.
Oh.
And then I have to switch off the power and turn it back on again for it to operate.
Is this one of the cases where it's just sort of a random, it's been running for 30 minutes, for an hour, for 2 hours, or does it like boot up and then just turn off? Or is it any time, is it random?
It's random. It just cuts off at random.
Is there any particular, does it happen, or has it ever happened 5 minutes between turning it on? Does it take an hour? Does it take a certain amount of time before it powers down?
Yeah, I've never witnessed it being turned off within like 5 minutes. It's like a good amount of time that I'm on it, and I find it cutting off on me.
It's suspicious of something very thermal related. Usually if something, you turn it on, it turns off immediately. You can almost go directly to some type of short capacitor problem with the power supply or something. But if it's running for a while and it's working normally and you're using the hard drive and you're not smelling any weird smoke and it's running just like it should, and then it just powers down, it in my mind, it tends to be where something is heated up, and it gets to a point with the heat that it either is getting too hot on the system or it's getting hot enough to finally open up a gap between a particular set of points on the motherboard that then causes it to turn off. So this may be the case where if it's thermal related, you may just be able to clean out the fans and make sure that the cool air is running through it. If it's something that's on the motherboard where it's just something, a random trace on the motherboard is causing a problem, that's going to be a lot harder to troubleshoot.
Oh my goodness! Anyway, the PC was taken from an office, so I don't know personally if they got rid of it or marked it down or whatever the case may be, and because of that issue.
Certainly,
but most of the time it runs pretty well. It's just that sometimes when you need it the most, to do like homework or something, in the middle of typing your resume, which I'm doing right now, bam, it just cut off like 3 times yesterday.
Oof. Not exactly what you want to do. There are some people, some environments, some people who work on computers, like local computer repair shops, will do something called reflowing. It's not really recommended. It may be actually a last-ditch effort to solve these particular kinds of weird problems, but they will put the entire motherboard and heat it up so that all of the solder effectively reflows. It gets hot enough so the solder will become liquid again and hopefully fill in any gaps that may have existed because of that. That's usually a last-ditch effort to do something like that. But if it's a motherboard that's worth enough, or you just want to try it because it would be fun to try, that would be another thing. You might also just want to grab something that can look at the heat inside of the machine. So grab a utility that shows you the amount of heat. What is the temperature on the CPU? What's the temperature inside the case? And make sure it's not getting up to a very, very high level. It may be related to just fans and the cool air going through. That may be an easy fix.
Wow. I never thought about it as a heat issue. I just want to thank you so much for helping me here today. And I'm a big fan. I've been browsing your site like crazy, and I bought all the important stuff. And my mom here just wants you to kind of wave at the camera for me.
Hey, Avi's mom. That's one of. Thanks for supporting the site. Let us know how it goes with the troubleshooting of that Dell machine. I'd love to close the gap. So call in next month or send an email, and I'll certainly post it and talk about it on the next study group.
Okay, greatly appreciated, Professor. You have a great weekend.
Thanks. Thank you. Same to you. Take care. We've got 11 minutes left. We've got a few more callers, so I'm just going to shotgun through these pieces. We'll try to make sure we can get as many people on the line as possible. Let's go to 937, the 937 area code. Are you there, caller?
Hello, I'm here.
Hello. What's your name?
My name's Gerard Schumacher.
Hello, Garrett. What can we do for you today?
Well, I just wanted to let you know I got my Network Plus and Security Plus certifications in April.
Congratulations.
And I wanted to thank you for watching your videos. Got my A Plus last year, so.
Triple play. You're good to go.
Yes, I am. But I am going for Server Plus, so I hope I'm ready for that.
Okay, well that's one. Is there a particular thing that you're working towards? Is there a certain thing that your employer's looking for? You're looking to get a job that will apply these particular certifications. What's your goal?
Well, I'm hoping to get back in with the military as a contractor. I was in the military for a number of years, and I'm hoping to work for like a big contractor and possibly do IT work for them. So
there's huge
that's my long-term goal.
Huge opportunities there, and military contractors love certifications. So I think you've got the right idea to get those under your belt. Is this one of these things where you might need any special security levels, or is this something where you may be able just to work as for a civilian contractor and work with the government?
Well, of course, they love the security clearance as well.
Yes.
That's just as important as getting the certifications. Of course, everyone's got to have the top secret SCI and all that.
Right. That sounds like a plan. Do you have a particular question for us today?
Well, my main question, it's kind of an A-plus question. It's about the Windows 7. I was curious, what version of Windows 7 does the Xbox use? Is it a version, like one of the different levels of Windows 7, like Home Basic, Home Premium, Professional, Ultimate? Or is that something different that they use for the Xbox or the Windows Phone?
Nobody knows for sure. We suspect that it's a build that's specifically for the Xbox. And now with Xbox One, you have all these other new capabilities they added on. Some people think it was their Media Center version that they converted over, and that would make sense because if you've seen the Xbox One, it has HDMI pass-through, which means you kind of plug it in between your cable box and the television. You can talk to the Xbox, so there's voice communication on it. Which I find, I have an Xbox One. I think it's great. I can say, Xbox, watch CNN. I don't know what channel CNN is on. I don't know anything about, I don't have to worry about the piece. It just finds CNN and turns to that channel. Or I can say, Xbox, watch Cosmos. And it figures out where Cosmos is, what channel it's on, and it just plays it if that happens to be on TV right then. Obviously, that's not what, if you've ever used Windows 7, none of that's in Windows 7. It's not part of an operating system you can buy for Windows 7 Professional, Windows 7 Ultimate, Windows 7 Home. That's not part of those capabilities. So Microsoft certainly is in the best possible place to use Windows 7. Some people will think that it's maybe an embedded version of Windows, and I don't think that's correct either. There's a version of Windows called Windows Embedded, and you've seen this recently because, as you're probably aware, Microsoft has removed all of their support for Windows XP. You can no longer effectively download security patches for Windows XP. But if you've ever used an automatic teller machine, a lot of those ATMs are running Windows XP. So one of the agreements that the ATM companies did is said, we'll pay you more money, Microsoft, if you keep giving us patches. So ATMs are running a version of Windows XP called Windows XP Embedded, which is a greatly honed down and reduced version of XP. There's no solitaire in Windows XP Embedded, for example. So in those cases, those XP machines are still going to get updates, but they're barely functional XP. They're really to do one particular thing. I think with Windows 7, it's probably more of a fully blown version of the operating system with customized software stuck on top of that. But you're right, it absolutely is a Windows operating system under the surface.
That's what I thought. I just thought they might have formatted it. I didn't know if it was Windows 7 or just formatted for a gaming console. I'm assuming it's the same thing for a Windows Phone, too. It's like its own operating system, not really Windows 7.
Yeah, Windows Phone is absolutely its own separate OS that was specifically built for the phone. And you're noticing those things are blending together. The new Microsoft Surface tablet is a remarkable piece of technology because it's running a full-blown Windows 8 on there, whereas the Windows Phone mobile, whatever operating system they're calling that these days, Windows Mobile Phone 8 or whatever name they've applied to that, it's this big long name, is a version of the operating system that was specifically built for mobile devices using those mobile processors that are in there.
I see. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like that Windows 7 Basic that they might put on the phone, and the one that was like set up for the tablets or whatever.
Right.
I didn't know if that was the same thing or.
Yeah,
Microsoft
has. You'll notice Microsoft has shied away now from their tablet version of Windows 8. That was a limited. Nobody bought it. Nobody went for it. So instead, what they said is, let's build a tablet that really runs Windows 8. And their new Microsoft Surface that they announced, what was it, a week or two ago? Really nice operating system, really nice tablet, really nice piece of hardware. They might have a winner with that one. So very impressive. If you haven't seen that, that may be worthwhile for folks to have a look at, because I was really impressed with that.
That looks pretty nice.
Very nice. Well, thanks for calling, and let us know how the Server Plus stuff goes.
Oh, yeah, just one other question. I
Sure.
was looking on your website, and I saw the Windows 7. You have videos for Windows 7 certification exam. How many exams do you need to take to get a Windows 7 certification? Is it just the 680, or are there more than one exams?
Microsoft has a lot of different changes to their certifications in the last 6 months or a year or so. The 7680 is one of the exams that you would need to get an MCSA, which is their Microsoft Certified Associate. You have to take both the 7680 and 7685. So the one on my website is half of what you would need to get to the MCSA certification piece. And unfortunately, I just don't have any 7685 videos yet. Some people have asked for them, but I just don't have any current plans to create any more Microsoft videos at the moment.
Oh, that's all good. Yeah, I can just watch. At least that's half the battle right there, right?
I would agree. I would agree. So, and if you're studying for those would be good to have. So good luck with those.
Yes, well, thank you very much.
Have a great weekend.
Yes, you too.
We've got a few minutes left. I want to be sure to try to get to the last two callers. Hopefully we can shotgun those in. 661 area code, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Professor. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, who's there?
Anthony Canty.
I thought it was Anthony. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. The only thing is I've lost I lost connection with you. I have an error occurred. Please try again later.
Oh, that's not good. On the YouTube side, nobody wants that.
Yeah.
I'm going to look and make sure my stream is still running. It seems to be running on this side, so we'll have to see how that goes on your side. It seems to be still running on my analytics here, so hopefully it's something that's isolated to you.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, I was getting back to you to let you know that I figured out how to change this Windows XP to Windows 7. I have to take the hard drive out and put it in a docking station that I have.
Well, this is you were going to do the Windows Easy Transfer or something like that to be able to convert that over.
It won't work. It won't work because this XP, there's some problems with the drivers. One of the drivers in it that controls the USB.
Oh, I see. So instead, you're going to plug it. You're going to take that out, put it on an external chassis, load up your Windows 7, and then in effectively real time do a Windows Easy Transfer directly from the external.
Yes.
Very nice. Yeah, that also kind of saves you from having to worry. My biggest problem with doing a Windows Easy Transfer is I do the Easy Transfer, I take the files, I store them out separately, and then if I leave the hard drive in place, I delete everything on there, load up the new operating system. There's no going back at that point.
No.
So it's kind of nice to be able to take the drive out, and if worst case, you can always just put the drive back in, and you're back to where you were.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take it out, put it in the docking station, take out what I need, and put it back in the computer, upload the operating system, Windows 7, take it out, and then take it back in and put all the information that I have back in there and do the same thing. It's a little time-consuming, but
90 seconds.
to do it.
And I think that's your best bet too, because now you're safe. No matter what happens, you can always go back to where you were and you didn't lose anything. Have you done the Easy Transfer yet? Have you done this yet?
Yeah, I've done that many times when I was in school there, the adult school. That's what we did was formatting partitions and taking out hard drives and putting hard drives back in, taking apart laptops.
60 seconds.
Gotcha.
It's just a little time consuming, that's all.
And for this particular one that you're doing where you're taking the drive out and you're putting it in, are you also have you done that process yet, or you're planning that?
Oh no, I haven't done it yet. I was looking at you this morning and saying, well, I had it planned for Saturday to do it today, but I wanted to take your class. So I don't know, there seems to be an error or something going on. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, well, the replay will absolutely be there.
I say that again?
The replay will be absolutely there. As soon as we're done here, the replay is saved onto ProfessorMesser.com/live, and I will, of course, be editing out the beginning and the ends and cutting this in two, and there'll be also others that you can watch. I'll have separate videos up for that piece as well.
Okay. Also, my website, I've got 1,200 subscribers now.
Wow. Okay. So you've got a lot going on. Are you doing blogging? Is there writing articles? Are you doing videos?
Blogging and putting in some pictures and little videos and stuff that I can get free.
That is
Matter
great.
of fact, I put in one of your videos where you first start teaching, so that the people can see, who you are, and it's under the Professor Messer free education.
And I appreciate that too. The more the merrier. And all of my videos on YouTube are embeddable everywhere. If anybody wanted to embed them on their website, they're more than welcome to.
That's where I got it from, YouTube.
Absolutely. More than welcome to do that. I appreciate it. Well, thank you, Anthony. I'm going to get to these other calls and see if we can get some other folks on the line. And let us know how that Windows Easy Transfer goes for you.
Okay, one question.
Okay.
How do I worked at a bank where we changed all the computers and they got a thin client.
Yes, oh,
and
sure.
They had one guy who was going around taking snapshots of the settings of the computer. He would copy everything out and then just leave the paper under the computer's monitor for the people who are coming in, I guess, to do what they needed to do, to have the old backup, I guess.
Okay.
I was going to ask you how to do that, but since I can't see it, I'll have to catch you next time.
I wonder what exactly they were grabbing from the desktop before they made the change. It seemed like everything would be centralized on the domain server or on a separate server, not on the local machine, but it's kind of hard to know.
They went from having everybody with all the information to just doing a VP.
Sure. Yeah, and that a lot of people are moving to that. Everything's centralized. You're getting it's the same control. It's much easier to manage. No large operating system changes. It's
Correct.
Certainly advantages to that. Be very interested to know what they do. Well, I'll do some research too and see what people are doing when they grab snapshots like that. I wonder if they're grabbing local data for some reason. Maybe they didn't have roaming profiles. They grabbed local data and sent it up to a central place that then they were able to have effectively their old screen now on the updated virtual side, the VDI.
They did it for each computer then. We did something like 20 computers.
That would be interesting to see. I wonder if that's just part of the VDI conversion, the virtual desktop interface conversion from one to the other.
I'm going to dig, now that you said that, I'm going to see if I can dig up the assignment papers that they gave us.
Oh, that'd be good to know.
Within the assignment papers, they had exactly what they wanted a snapshot of.
As long as there's nothing proprietary there, I'd love to hear about the process. I think other people would too as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the process.
Yep.
That's what I want to know, how they did do that. Because, I mean, they explained to you, with the paperwork they gave you, but there was only one guy doing it because there was so many machines to change out and put others in.
Right. It's all about time and motion, it seems.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, correct. Okay, thank you. Good to talk to you, and have a good weekend.
Thank you, Anthony. Same to you.
Okay.
Although she counted down, and I think the recording technically on the audio side is no longer accessible, I can still pick up the phone line for the 941 area code. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Hello, what's your name?
Hi, this is Kevon.
Hello, Kevon.
How are you doing, Professor Messer?
Good. What can we do for you?
I have a few, not a few questions, but I would like some advice from you.
See what I can do.
I enjoyed your videos. And oh, by the way, before I go on, I'm on a limited connection, so might break up sometimes.
It sounds great so far.
Are you hearing me clearly?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay. My first question is, I recently did a Security Plus. Use your video study for Security Plus, Network Plus. However, I didn't write Network Plus, but I could write it anytime because I'm well prepared. What I'm looking at CAPS, CompTIA Advanced Security Practitioner.
Right.
What advice you have for me there?
That one is a relatively new certification. What CompTIA wanted to do was fill in a gap between the entry-level security, and generally when people finish their Security Plus, they want to be able to get a higher level certification. And there's a lot of higher level security certifications out there. There's the CISSPs. Some people like the Certified Ethical Hacking, probably not one of my favorites, but there's a lot of other, the SANS group, SANS, does a ton of security classes. And if you take a SANS class, there may not be a certification at the end of it, but a lot of people in the security industry look at the SANS classes as being very valuable to have under your belt. And CompTIA realized that there was an opportunity there to provide additional security training under the CompTIA umbrella, so to speak. And so they created the CompTIA certified or advanced security practitioner, the CASP, the CASP, as you mentioned earlier. And a lot of the driving of the CASP was related to Department of Defense and other large organizations that wanted people to have the higher level concepts of security certification, planning out and architecting these security environments. So these go really deep into, if you look at the Security Plus, you talk about firewalls and you talk about ACLs, but the CASP drills down into a lot of detail associated with those things. And I think that's an important opportunity for somebody who's in security. And I do a lot of security work during the week, knowing how to perform firewall versus IPS, knowing about syslog, knowing about understanding how to protect operating systems, and those pieces becomes exceptionally important. And the CASP is very much a higher level from I think a higher level conceptual certification. I'm going to pull up the CASP exam objectives and give you a feel for what some of these are for the people that are listening in that perhaps have not seen the CASP pieces. Some people have asked for CASP videos, and it's not beyond the realm of possibility to create some of those. It's not something I'm focusing on at the moment. But one of the things about the CASP is they're saying you're really going to need at least 10 years of experience in IT and 5 years of hands-on technical experience, because you go into a lot of details. And you initially see this in the CASP requirements. Like the first section is talking about cryptography. You immediately jump into PKI. You jump into understanding the difference between OCSP and CRL, which you only got the basics of in Security Plus. You have to know, I'm going to skip down to the second section, for instance, where you're now getting into risk management. Yeah. So it's now like a security administrator type topics. A lot of this is not hands-on. A lot of this is, how do I build out security policies? Well, what documents do I need from a security perspective? Business partnership agreements, service level agreements, operating level agreements, interconnection security agreement. This is what CompTIA is trying to work in, is those CISSP related level exams. So it really goes beyond the scope of learning how to use a firewall, and instead learning the concepts of what's important to build out security policies for the organization, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Because I look at the exam objectives, and I noticed they said you need like about 5 years experience in the security world.
Right.
But the thing is, with me, I never worked in the corporate environment as a IT, let's say IT professional or whatsoever. It's like my normal day-to-day job, 9 to 5, is nothing to do with technology. So was wanting to know, what should I, if you think reading alone will help me there, or you spoke about earlier about SANS classes. But the thing is, I'm way up in South America, so what advice you have for me in that?
Well, if you're not in IT yet and you're just looking to get into the IT field, the CASP is really well beyond what most employers are looking for someone who's just starting in IT. Generally, they're looking for A+, Network Plus, maybe Security Plus to be able to do those pieces. Generally not beyond that for this. If you were already in a security role or you were in a networking role and you were looking to move into security or move up within the security ranks, then the CASP may be a good option for that. But if you have not yet gotten your IT feet wet, you've not gotten an IT position anywhere, I think getting the CASP would be outside the scope. You can't show up for show up for an interview and say, I have 10 certifications and they're all high level. They're not going to hire you because they think that perhaps you might be overqualified for the role. They don't want to hire somebody who's going to be bored doing the entry-level things. But the reality is you really are entry-level. You haven't done the hands-on yet. You've gotten your A+, your Network Plus. You're not even at that phase yet. So I would say hold off on something like the CASP and maybe focus on some core fundamentals like A+ and Network Plus, maybe some of the entry-level Microsoft MTA certifications or even one of their operating system certifications. But going into Cisco or Checkpoint or CASP is probably outside the scope of somebody who's just starting in IT.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. The way how I started off, I open up computers and so on, look at how things work and so on. And then I discovered A+, and I did I wouldn't say that much studying because the stuff I already did, I learned by myself. I decided to go right the A+, and then I studied for Network Plus and Security Plus. I also wrote Security Plus last month. So since I finished Security Plus, I got a special interest in security. That is why I was looking towards CAPS.
And that's sort of how it worked with me as well. I started with PCs. I moved into networking. From there, security became an interest, and I moved into that piece. But generally, to start in a security group, what they are generally looking for is someone with a very strong networking background because everything is running over the network. You need to understand networking concepts to be able to configure a firewall that's running at layer 3 to do IP routing. You need to understand how the protocols work so that when you're configuring the IPS, the intrusion prevention system, that's going to work the way you would expect. So generally, to get into security, interestingly enough, you start on the networking side, and that moves you into a security role. Practically everybody I deal with during the week, they are very security focused. Practically all of those people came from a networking background to get into security.
Okay. So is there any webcast or any set persons that do videos like you, let's for example with your A+ and Network Plus, Security Plus? Do you know of anyone that does videos and so on concerning, let's say, about networking more in depth or so? There are probably security.
There are a number of them out there. They're kind of hard to find and they're hit and miss. A lot of people have made. Let me give you an example. So Cisco has some entry-level certifications. They have a CCENT certification that's kind of their entry level into networking. I guess it can kind of be comparable to the Network Plus with a few more things added in. And there are a number of videos out there that people have made that focus on those topics. But what I'm finding is that those videos either are not comprehensive enough, or the quality of the videos isn't enough so that I can keep my interest because the audio is very bad or it's hard to see what people are doing on the screen. It's very hit and miss. It may be, and some people in the chat room are saying you may want to go to a commercial option and pay for additional videos. That's certainly an option. But for the YouTubes of the world, you're just going to have to hop around and see which ones might work for you. There's a lot out there, and unfortunately not quite as well organized as some of the things I might have on my site, but that's why I built my site, because it was really hard to find those topics. And I guess I should be working harder to make more videos ultimately.
Okay. I know you spoke about the time and so on with you to make more videos, but I appreciate it if sometime in the future you could, do some more videos.
I am working on those as we speak. There are updated Security Plus videos on the way. The video content has already been created. It's in the can. So now it's about production time and getting in front of the camera. And then after that, there's even some new things that are coming down the line. So keep watching. I appreciate it.
Oh, definitely.
Take care. Thanks for calling. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye. Calling from all over the world this week. And I have one more phone call that we're absolutely going to take before my voice goes out from the 773 area code. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I am.
Hello, caller. What's your name?
Michelle.
Hello, Michelle. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you today?
Okay. Professor Mesler was talking about the virtual box.
I was.
And he mentioned that he had a Macintosh.
I do.
And I have a Macintosh, and I had classes in my A+, 801, and 802. And I have, the Windows Enterprise. And I want to know if I would be able to, use maybe not VirtualBox, but something that works on a Mac to get experience on the command lines and things with Windows Enterprise.
Sure. So you've got, is it Windows 7 Enterprise that you have? You have like the installation media?
Yeah, 7.
Okay.
7, Windows 7 Enterprise.
Great. So one of the easiest ways to do this.
But I have a Macintosh. I have a Mac.
Yep, I do everything on Mac OS 10. I primarily use Mac OS 10 because I do so much video editing, and I find that the operating system lends itself more with the codecs available for doing the video editing. I also use Windows and have for a very long time. I use VirtualBox in Mac OS 10. They make a version of VirtualBox for Windows, for Mac, and for Linux. So I use the Macintosh version of this. I have a lot of virtual machines that I can run inside of that. The ones that I've been showing today have been running there. And if you watch my A+ videos on Windows 7, installing Windows 7, I use VirtualBox in that video. So you can bring up VirtualBox on your Mac desktop and follow along with those videos. And I install the Windows operating system using VirtualBox. And you can do the same thing with VMware Fusion. That's another one that I run on my Mac desktop. That one costs money.
VMware Fusion?
VMware Fusion. It's not incredibly expensive.
And you said that's a cost for that, or
it is
VirtualBox free, or
VirtualBox is absolutely free, and it runs extremely well. I've used it for many things. It's my go-to for virtualization.
Okay, so both of these will work on a Mac.
They will, absolutely. That's what I'm running right now. If you have a way to look at the stream, I'm on my Mac front end right now.
Yeah,
I'm running VirtualBox right now, and the examples I was giving earlier where we did the ping commands was running in a Windows desktop, running as a virtual machine on my Mac OS 10 desktop.
Okay, now one thing, when you get this particular, which either one I get, VirtualBox or VMware Fusion, I put that on. Does this affect your other Mac, system? Everything is affected only in the virtual window dealing with the Windows 7 stuff. Right.
That's really the beauty of this, is that I would install Windows 7 into this virtual machine, and it's in its own world. I can do whatever I want in that virtual machine. I can delete partitions. I can add partitions. I could change the Windows operating system, and it has zero effect on what's going on with the Mac OS 10 environment. If I'm tired of looking at Windows, I just close it out, and I'm back. And Mac OS 10 is exactly where I left it. Everything is still running in the background. Nothing changes. So you can use your Windows operating system and make all kinds of changes and modifications to the operating system and be completely comfortable that nothing you do inside of that Windows machine is going to have any impact on the Mac OS 10 desktop or system. The only time that you might want to be concerned about that is you do have a way to link shared folders between the Windows operating system and the Mac, but you have to set that up yourself. And you have the option to say, these linked folders are read-only or they are read-write. And that might be the only place where you would have the opportunity to mess things up. But it's not turned on by default. So that's something you would have to actively mess up yourself.
Okay. So in terms of putting either of these on, you said you're only depending on how much hard drive space you have in order to run different versions of Windows.
Generally, it's hard drive space.
I mean, many more versions of the virtual box.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, like you can have more than one.
Generally,
on there, but
your two big resources. One is disk space, because when you install a 10 gig operating system, you're going to generally want to create, for performance reasons, build out that 10 gig file immediately. So already you're taking a 10 gigabyte section of your hard drive, adding a file to it, and that file is going to be that Windows operating system. So that immediately takes up a chunk of space. And if you're running in an SSD or you don't have a lot of disk space, that's a concern. When you're running it actively, the more important resource is going to be the amount of memory in your computer, because the Windows operating system.
So say that I had like I have like only 4 gig on this Mac.
Right. So in your Mac with 4 gig, now you're going to want to run Windows on top of that. Windows is going to want at least 2 gig. You're probably running at least that in Mac OS X, and you may be running up against some constraints there. If you're running Windows XP or Windows 7, you might be able to get it and stick it in 2 gig, maybe even less. But your performance is really going to suffer when you get into that. It would be much more.
The maximum memory that it can hold is 8.
Yeah, you may want to do a memory upgrade if you plan to do a lot of virtualization. That way, you can allocate 2 or 3 or 4 gig to Windows and still have plenty of memory for your Mac operating system.
Right now, it's just important just to get, one. So if I was could I get away with just having one virtual window with 7 on there?
I think you could. You could allocate 2 gig to it. It probably won't run as well as if it had more, but it would run, absolutely. As long as you're not running big applications in the Windows environment and trying to run Photoshop and trying to do video editing and audio editing, you'll be fine.
To use it as a test study.
Yeah, I bet
the classes that I have. I'm trying to get certified, so I study.
I bet you would be able to get away with that. You wouldn't have to buy extra memory. Like I said, it probably won't be the best performance for Windows, but you don't need the best performance. You just need to be able to pop open a command line, run some pings, run some trace routes, run the things that you'd like to run. I think you'll be fine.
Okay. Also, on your site, on your study guide, I also taken the class, the 7680.
Yes.
I saw the study guide for the 7680, but we also had a 7685, and I noticed that I looked around on your site and I didn't see anything that you don't do that one, or?
I have not created a 7685 course. There have been a lot of requests for it, but I don't currently have plans to create a 7685 course, although there's a lot more people asking for it these days. I may have to reconsider what I was thinking along those lines. Okay. I have considered creating a study guide for 7685 without having the videos for it. But at the end of the day, I don't know if that's a smart idea either. There's all kinds of interesting things we could do with that. And I just don't have plans currently for 7685.
Is it some reason, or is it what was the motive by not doing it? Is it not necessary, or
no?
Just not?
I think for most people it's very necessary. It's really just about time. I'm one person. There's no group of people here. This is a company of one. And
you're doing a wonderful job.
I have a full-time job during the week, so that takes up a lot of time. Everything I do on the Professor Messer website is things I do after hours and on the weekends.
Wow.
So I kind of have to focus on getting as much done as I can until 1 and 2 in the morning, and then kind of restart again and keep doing those pieces. So it's really just about how much time I have available to it. I would love to be able to do more Microsoft courses and other manufacturers' courses as well. It's really just more about what time resources I have available to me right now.
Okay. One other thing here. I have a Windows 98 second edition. It's an older, real old.
It must be, yes.
Right. And you was mentioning about earlier in the live thing about someone said something about they was like taking you said get some experience and taking it apart and all that.
Right.
Do you think that this Windows second 98 condition Windows that I could make that into and install Windows 7 on it?
Is it a desktop, a laptop computer? What type is it?
It's a desktop. It's a HP 970 Windows 98 second edition. But while I took everything out while I had it, and I self-taught myself the computer while I had it back in 2001. It's just when I got it. So I kind of removed the hard drives and all of that. I didn't do anything with the motherboard.
I would
so
bet.
I know that in order to get this to be, specs for a Windows 7, I was thinking that I had to replace the motherboard. But then someone said, no, you probably just have to replace the chipset that's on the motherboard. Would that work with adding peripherals?
The challenge, you're going to have a couple challenges there. First, that's a really old machine. And as you're probably aware, Windows 7 needs at least a gigahertz processor, and it needs at least a gig of memory to be able to install. And it needs at least 16 gig of hard drive space, and a machine from that time may not even have that much hard drive space on it. But let's say it does.
No.
I would bet the processor is not a gig, and I would bet the amount of memory in the machine probably isn't a gig. And the challenge you're going to have is even if the motherboard supports a gig of memory, it's going to be hard to find the memory to purchase, to put in, to upgrade it, even if it allows that. And then once you do that, it's going to be an awful running Windows 7 machine. I just don't think that may be worth your while.
Right. So I mean, like I was saying that some people were using older machines, and they were saying they were building them up to presents to use with but overall it would be quite an expensive endeavor.
I think it would, and ultimately it's not going to run Windows. I think that's just too old of a machine to run Windows 7. That one would probably be a better candidate for a low-end version of Linux to play around with Linux, and even that one's going to be very, very limited.
Okay. Do you think that if a person had classes and they don't have a lot of experience in IT, and they, had classes and they got the A+ and with just their certifications A+, but they don't have a lot of experience, and most, companies want that. Do you think it's possible for them to get a position without having hands-on experience other than class and, what we just talked about on the phone here?
Well, the rather, I say obvious answer, but the rather obvious answer is yes. Otherwise, none of us would have a job, because we all had to get a job at some point with no experience. The challenge, as you even said, everybody would love to have someone hire that has experience. And the challenge that you're finding with this, though, is that you can't get experience until you have a job, and you can't get a job unless you have experience. So you may want to try getting experience other places. I was talking earlier to a caller who who's working with an agency and doing volunteer work. That's a great place to get experience. Maybe there's a library that needs someone to come in and help with their computers. Maybe somebody with a business who could help give you time on their machines to do virus scans and make sure they're defragged and make sure they're up to date with the latest things, or upgrade their memory or whatever they might have. It may not be something obvious. I think you need three different things to really have the best shot. One is certification, certainly. One is some experience of some kind, and the other is some practical some practical education, a formal class or a formal degree of some kind, even if it's a technical degree that does help when you're going into getting a job interview. But the answer also is that you don't necessarily need any of those things. Sometimes just having a relationship with somebody who trusts you, who knows that you're going to come to work every day, who knows you're going to work hard, and they'll worry about training you once you're there. There are a lot of companies that do that. So also, you may want to think about joining these local computing groups, a local Microsoft user group, a local technical group. There's a lot of technical groups out there, and doing networking that way as well. Maybe I should add that as a fourth leg onto the stool, which is go meet people who are already in these roles, because when they need to hire somebody, they'll know you from the user group meeting. They met you before. They know that you're active in doing these things, and that actually goes a long way.
Oh, okay. And can you give me real quickly, what is the difference between a thin client and a thick client? I'm getting that kind of mixed up in my study here.
You're going to be seeing a lot more of the thin clients. I think thick client you can think of being the traditional computer. You come into work, you turn on your computer, it's got a big hard drive inside of it. The hard drive runs Microsoft Excel, it's got Microsoft Word on it. It's kind of the older style laptops, the big desktop machines that you have. Those are thick clients. But what a lot of companies are going to these days are thin clients, where the machine that's sitting on your desk, it doesn't have much storage space on it. It has the basic amount of memory, but it is instead connecting out, usually via a remote desktop type protocol, connecting out to a bigger, much bigger machine that's stored somewhere else across the network. And you're effectively running remote desktop sessions that don't take place and aren't processed locally. They're processed somewhere else. So they call it a thin client because it doesn't need a big fat hard drive. It doesn't need a big fat amount of memory in it. It just needs the bare minimums to connect to the network, connect out to that bigger machine, and display those graphics on the screen.
Okay. And this is my one last question here.
Sure.
Your, what you mentioned, I know, the virtual lab.
Yes.
With that, like I have the Mac, would I just be able to go the one that you said? So instead of, maybe I wouldn't do the virtual box, but could I do the same things in this virtual lab?
Oh, sure.
Just go to that website and, sign up for that and just run that on, through the Mac and try the commands there?
Absolutely.
Is that optional?
I've run it before during our study groups. I didn't run it this time just because we were short of time. But the GTS Learning Live Labs do exactly that. They are, and I've run them in my browser on my Mac machine. They run in HTML5, so they work great. If you go out to professormesser.com/freestyle labs, there's a special pricing on these as well, on the Professor Messer pricing. I think it's $99 for a year, plus you can get an hour for free. So you can try it for free on your machine and see if it works fine in your browser. And you can run it in, I run it in Chrome, I run it in Firefox. It's on my Mac desktop. It has both a client for your browser in HTML5, and there's a client that will run in Java if you've got Java installed on your machine. Either way, I just don't like running Java. But it runs exactly all of those things on your machine, and it runs great. I've run through many of the labs myself, and I'm running Windows Server. There's a web server. I'm capturing packets. I'm running a ping command, and I don't have to have any extra memory, any extra hard drives. It's all running out somewhere on the web, somewhere in the cloud.
So I can try different operating systems using this. That's what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. You can sign up for an hour free and run through any of their labs. And you can run through multiples of those and load up all of the things I just mentioned for an hour for no cost at all, and see how it runs on your machine.
Okay. Thanks very much. You're very helpful. Your study guides, I got your study guide.
Oh, thank you.
Good. Very helpful. And that's why I went out there to try to get the 685, but I didn't see that. But okay. But other than that, you're great.
Maybe in the future. Hang in there.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that comes to the end of our calls. I guess it helps that it actually shuts down the calls after 2 hours. I was, in fact, looking at bringing in my own phone lines with my own 800 number and having multiple trunks set up and just doing voice over IP right in there. I need to find an asterisk expert. So if anybody knows any asterisk, which is the open source PBX, if you know anybody that does that, absolutely send them my way. I was actually thinking of outsourcing it and having a hosted asterisk, bringing in the 800 lines, and then just connecting up just like I do now with my single link and doing it that way. It would be interesting. For those of you that didn't get those freestyle labs, you can go to professormesser.com/freestyle labs, and you can get that special pricing and the free hour. Even if you don't buy it, you can try it out for an hour and see what you think as well. Wow. Well, that brings us to the end. You can tell my voice has just about had it. I think that was a good workout for my voice. I didn't even get to go through all of the every single one of the things I wanted to with the questions that I have, but I got plenty more. We can do that next time. I think we were able to get through more of the real raw questions and get those done in that first hour. Maybe what we should do is just shotgun questions all the way through, and then in the second half take questions from the phone lines. That might be fun to do. We'll try that next time, where I won't take any calls until the second hour, and we'll just go through question. We'll get about 10 or 12 or 15 questions in, and then we'll go to calls. I think maybe you can send me your ideas of what you think with all of those things. And that does bring us to the end of the after show. You folks really hung in there with me the entire time. Thank you so much. It's kind of nice to get back in the saddle again after being out for a number of weeks and suffering through the bit of a cold that I had. So I feel good that I made it through at least this far. Thanks everyone for being there. Thanks for being in the chat room. We'll see you in another month. We'll see you next month in June for another one of these. In the meantime, I'm on my website. I'm in the chat room there at professormesser.com. Send me a message by clicking Contact Us at the top of the page. And if you do nothing else, subscribe to me on YouTube. It's remarkable how far that goes with being able to do these live events and getting Google to return my phone calls. That always helps as well. You can find that at professormesser.com/YouTube. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on the A+ Study Group.